strong. So, you know, if the board comes like 3 middle cards or 2 middle cards and a low card or something, he's going to be just inflating a pot that he eventually winds up losing anyway. So.
And now, you know, he does have an opponent at the table, Van Holstein, who's on the shorter side. So for ICM reasons and everything else.
A lot better flop than that.
Yeah, he's looking to play smaller pots. Alan
complaining
about the flop, but it actually saved him.
Yeah,
could have been a lot worse for him.
Yeah, he could have gotten into a lot of trouble.
If Alan got what he thought was a good flop for him, he might have actually been in quite bad shape. Van Holstein raising with the kings. That's Kodny, ace, king, queen, 7, 3 diamonds though.
He will be pot 3-betting. Oh, sorry. I mixed up the 2 hands when I looked here. No, he will probably just be peeling or folding.
Yeah, if the ace was suited, this hand would be a good deal better. But
yeah, and then he has 3 diamonds. Oh, he does go for it with the ace-king blockers.
He's going to be in bad shape against Van Holstein, though.
Very bad shape.
And I believe he's essentially committing stacks here.
Yeah.
Van Holstein only...
I don't really like this play against under the gun.
Yeah, especially Van Holstein is not really been
stack.
out of line at all. He's been quite patient this whole final table.
Is he just calling? He's just counting his chips, figuring out.
Yeah, I think he's just counting.
See, when you have the ace, king, king, you're not as worried about being up against aces because you do have the ace.
Yes.
But if you are up against aces,
you are in very, very bad shape.
Because he has no suits. He has ace, king, king, deuce, badoogie. This is actually a really tough spot. He just saw, but it is against the chip leader, which might give him some more courage to go for it.
Yeah, Kodny hasn't actually been that out of line either.
He did pot 3-bet the exact previous hand, blind versus blind against Kessler. And he does go with it. He says pot. I don't think Kodny will be able to fold once he does the math.
Kodny is not quite a 3-to-1 dog here. The board will split sometimes because they share a few cards. And Holstein is all in, or close to it.
Yeah, it's definitely all in.
And against a 4-bet range, Kodny's hand is actually in pretty bad shape. If he's up against aces or kings, he's in quite bad shape. This is the type of hand you want to see your opponent just call with when you pot 3-bet, I think.
Yep.
Because then your opponent can have some sort of 4-card like mid-rundown where you're actually live, but against this hand, you're in pretty bad shape. Is there any ways Kodny can possibly fold here, or is he just going to wind up calling?
I think he'll have to call once he figures out the number.
He's hitting about 2-to-1. So he only needs 33%, but he only has 26%.
Yeah, he's getting just over 2-to-1. He's got to call 564.
And the cards are on their backs. Says Kodny, you're going to see the bad news here. He is not in great shape against Van Holstein.
Well, just kind of some mistimed aggression. I don't mind it. I just think the flaw in it was when, you know, the short stack on the final table, 4-handed raises under the gun, they're not going to be that light. And I don't think you're getting through very often, especially in PLO. It's not like Hold'em where you just open and fold the 3-bets. In PLO, you know, the 3-bet can only be so big, and you're always going to be getting a pretty good price.
Yeah, 2-to-1 at the worst. With position, pretty hard to fold that many hands in PLO. And Holstein at risk here. We'll see if he manages to hold up.
Jack's a good card for Kodny.
Jack is good for Kodny. He picks up a gut shot and a backdoor flush draw. And Holstein still with the kings.
So a diamond or a 10 will make things interesting on the river.
10 of diamonds, you might as well ask for that.
Alan Kessler pops out with a 10 of diamonds comment, and there it comes. And look at Kessler
calling out the 10 of diamonds.
Wow.
Kessler trying to grind out those ICM jumps.
So only a queen will chop it.
A 7. Rough bust out for Van Holstein. He will finish 4th place. Pim Van Holstein from Netherlands.
How did I know the 10 of diamonds?
Good showing for him. He's going to take home 29,000 euros roughly.
And the 3 players are all guaranteed a minimum of 40,000 euro.
And now we get to settle in for a long 3-handed match. Van Holstein was the short stack. Now everyone's going to have 70 or more big blinds, I believe.
Yeah. Hi.
So,
Oh, you
like
want
you were
this,
saying, this
yeah,
could take
sure.
5 minutes. It could take 5 hours.
You could both be in the picture.
Yeah, like it's not impossible for a
I've had 3
three-way
seconds
all-in
already,
to
right?
happen the next hand in PLO. But it's going to take some very strong holdings, of course. And just one of those crazy
That was so
flops.
weird. I said 10 of diamonds. It was like right there.
Alan calling out cards for other people. I'm sure he'd prefer to save some of those cards for himself, but he did move up in the pay jumps there.
Alan Kessler, three-handed for his first WSOP bracelet.
It says Cody with 145 big blinds now. Kessler with 47 and Yankov with 62. Yeah, it's been an interesting final table.
So be an interesting dynamic to see the two short stacks if they're trying to wait each other out or if they're trying to get involved and chip up and trying to win the tournament.
Yeah, even posting a blind every hand, you can last quite a while, as I'm sure Kessler is about to show us.
I don't like that button fold. I think it was Queen 9-8-6.
Yeah, that seems good enough on the button.
On
Says
Alan
Cody
Kessler's
maybe,
big blind with the two short stacks probably thinking about trying to outlast each other for 18,000 euro.
Yeah, I think with Kessler in the big, you can just have a
Yankoff
ton of fold equity on your raise.
does pot it. And here we're going to see Alan Kessler probably overfold with ace-10, 3-deuce. Does have the nut suit, but he's not going to like having three
He's going to
spades.
fold that one. Wow,
Yeah.
that's a pretty tight fold in Omaha in position, is it not?
Yes.
I mean, it's not a good hand, but with
no.
the big blind,
Yeah.
seems good enough. So if Kessler's going to be overfolding his blind, we may see a lot
Hello,
of,
welcome back. I am now joined by Pim, who has come in 4th place. How are you feeling about that? Because it's been a crazy fast final table, just the last few bust outs.
Yeah, it went very, very fast, but yeah, did not get a lot of cards. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to play. So I'm pretty happy with the result. A bracelet would be nice, but
There's
yeah.
more events to come.
yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll try again.
This
Yeah.
is special for you because it's your first ever WSOP cash.
Yeah, I think also it's my first WSOP tournament, like the official. I played some on the circuit in the Netherlands, in Rotterdam. But yeah, my first cash in the PLO tournament,
Yeah.
live. So yeah, it was a great experience. Played 3 days. Was a lot of fun on the bubble. Yeah, so great tournament.
That's a
Yeah.
pretty good rate that you've only played one WSOP tournament
Yeah.
and you've managed to final table one, coming in the top
Yeah.
4. So pretty good going.
Yeah, yeah. So next year we'll be here again at the WSOP-Europe. So I will try again in the Pot Limit Omaha tournament.
Okay, are you going to play anything else here?
No, I don't play any.
You're an
tournaments.
economics student, right?
I used to be an economics student. I graduated 1 year ago, so I'm now playing just poker. Yeah,
Alright.
mostly live. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for chatting with us. Congratulations
Thank you very much.
on your 4th place finish. Pim, we're going to go back to the action. It's hotting up as just 3 remain in the fight for the gold bracelet and 93,000 euros.
And nice showing there by our 4th place finisher, Pim van Holstein of the Netherlands.
I enjoyed that interview a lot, just to see his enthusiasm for the game and to be, you can tell that he was, happy to be there and to make such a deep run in his first WSOP tournament, even after taking such a tough beat. From what he said, he only plays PLO and basically just grinds PLO cash all the time, so he knows what an amazing spot he was in there with that hand matchup, and to take such a tough beat, but to still be, so enthused about his tournament run. That was cool.
Yeah, his first year as a poker professional, and you can see he's enthusiastic about the game. I don't think that's the last we will be seeing of Mr. Van Holstein. I've played with him at Cash at a Holland Casino, actually. He lives in Amsterdam as well.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I've seen him around quite a bit.
So Yankov does limp this one, blind versus blind.
Yankov with top
which-
pair.
It's a normal limp. But if you're going to raise the other one, you might as well just raise all of them, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yankov just content to try to show this down. Kessler picks up a flush draw on the turn and gets there on the river.
It's just going to go check, and Alan's going to win with the 9-high flush.
You don't think he'll bet the flush? Looks like he is.
He goes for a tiny bet. I think that was minimum,
Yeah,
30,000.
And Yankov will call. Kessler got there. This is how we're going to see Alan play a lot of the hands, I think. Just kind of
Pot control, yep.
pot control everything. Small bets with flushes, you know.
Well, it's a nice value bet by Alan. I think you should have bet bigger if you're going to bet, to maybe make it look a bit bluffier. I don't think that's a very good call by Yankov. I think he should probably just fold or raise at that point.
Well, he might not be used to just how tight Alan plays. But yeah, that bet on the river does look like pretty value-oriented.
Like Yankov was happy, like he was thinking about his hand, and he was happy just to show it down, and he just wasn't thinking enough about I think his opponent's hand strength
Right.
at that point.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see how the adjustments get made as this match
He'll
develops.
definitely
Yankov
play
with
this
a
one.
Very
With the
nice
king,
hand
queen,
here.
10, with the king high suit.
There's a raise on the button.
105. He's going for the over 3x raise on the chip leaders button. Alan is
Alan.
going to play.
Alan with a nice one.
And I also expect the big blind to play almost everything. So I think we're going to see a three-way flop, which is, oh my God, Alan.
Alan folds.
Oh my God.
The Alan Kessler show, ladies and gents.
Wow.
Yeah, he's surprising with how tight he plays.
Like that one, like that hand was better than some of the hands that he's played. Like he actually called with a couple of hands where I thought he would fold, but that one really surprised me.
Maybe because he's in the small blind.
But he had the ace high suit.
It was ace 10, 8, 8. So
Yeah.
he would have had a set,
would've
a
had-
straight
yeah.
draw.
He would have had bottom set with straight draw and
He
the
has
blocker.
dodged a bullet, though, as Yankov flops the nuts.
So far.
So far, yeah.
So we have top set against nut straight, and Alan would have had bottom set. And this is what I'm talking about. Like sometimes you just flops happen where you could just have a three-way all in.
We'll see how Zezkodny decides to proceed here.
He might go for the raise to protect his hand against the straight draws, but no, he
He's just gonna
does
call.
just be cautious. Just calls.
Wisely just calls here against Yankov's C-bet. We're going to go to a turn.
I want to see Alan's
There's a
face.
6.
So this
Alan
would have
picks up a
given
flush
Alan
draw.
the nut flush draw with bottom set and the straight draw against the nut straight and top set. Wow. What could
This
have
could have
been?
This could have been a very big pot, but
Because then when it's also three ways, you know, like they're trying to protect their hands and get the other guy out, and you might see a raise on the flop or the turn, or crazy stuff could happen.
yeah, Alan ruining it for us with his nitty folds.
Please show Alan's face right now.
If the third diamond hits, we're going to see a face from Alan for sure. He's been around the gambling world for a long time, but he's still... All right, so Yankov betting pretty big on the turn here as Zezkodny with top set. He will call.
325,000. And this pot is over $1 million.
A big pot brewing here, folks. The river is a king of diamonds. Alan makes a nut flush.
Alan, it's possible he got blown off this hand before
Yeah, he
the
probably
river,
wound up folding
but I
somewhere
don't
else.
know.
Although he did go with that other hand when he was in the three-way all-in pot when he just had the bottom two in this in the straight draw. So.
It's gonna go check now.
Yeah, check seems totally reasonable here.
And the river,
Yankov's gonna win,
Yankov wins a monster pot of over $1 million chips.
and Alan will. I guarantee you he makes some remark here. Maybe I'm wrong.
Alan would have had bottom set.
Did he
and then
forget that he
run
folded
away.
the diamonds? I'm
I don't-
surprised he
I
didn't.
don't think so. He's just probably.
Wow, that was a monster flop. Set against straight on the flop. Top set, straight.
Maybe Alan doesn't want.
100%. Așa sam celja.
Alan might not want to say what he folded.
Yeah. Keep that a secret. It'll only be a secret for about
Three-handed,
half
that's
an
a
hour,
big
though. We're in a
flop.
half-hour delay. So if these guys have their friends watching the stream, they will know each other's hands about after 30 minutes. We're here at the World Series of Poker Europe in Rozvadov. I'm your host, Brian Paris. Joining me is Mike Leah, who finished 20th in this event.
Yeah, paid 29 spots,
Good enough.
so snuck into the money. I had a huge stack early in this event and ended up getting kind of short near the money, and then trying to survive and catch a heater.
The Omaha tournaments can certainly be roller coasters. We've seen a little bit of that here at this final table. Kessler came in quite short. He is now three-handed with a lot of chips.
And he will be playing this hand on the button, I think.
You never know, man. Okay.
He's going to limp it.
Kessler playing small ball.
Has Coney just lost a big hand?
Oh,
Does he
puts
steam
down a
off
pretty
and
good one.
post and pot here, or does he just try to see a flop? He's just going to limp in.
And we have a very cautious approach here from everyone. Kessler actually has the worst of it. He just had the best position. Flop comes.
That's an interesting
A
flop.
wrap for Kessler.
Yeah, a wrap for Kessler, top pair for Yankov. Absolute squadouche for Zezkodny.
Yankov also has a gut shot.
Yep. He's going to lead it. Allen's going to call. He does have the backdoor nut flush draw with the wrap. And because it's a limp pot, the bet's going to be fairly small. Kessler quickly calls.
And Zezkodny will get out of the way here. Everyone heads up to the turn. Yankov the favorite.
A 3 would be a disaster for Allen.
King on the turn. It's a great card for Yankov. He picks up trips. His kickers are not very good, though.
I still think he's going to bet to protect against the straight and flush draws. And just hope Allen folds. I think a check here would be bad because Allen's going to bet his kings anyway, but not going to raise them. So by
Allen
checking, all
checks.
you're doing is giving your opponent's draws free cards.
He did indeed give a free card, but he managed to fade it.
So now I think you should also check.
Yeah, now checking makes more sense. There's not much value to be had by betting. Pretty difficult, for, especially for Allen. Allen's just never calling you with worse if you bet here.
Will Allen bluff the misdraw?
Allen probably won't bluff
Yankov
either.
is not going to give himself a chance. I don't know. Allen may bluff the river in that spot. He can't win the hand, and his opponent's showing weakness. Allen quickly folds. Yankov wins.
Yeah, Yankov with a big bet on the river there seems very difficult to get called by worse.
Yeah, I guess he's just hoping Allen like limped with aces or something at that point. But like, what? There's nothing else Allen could call with. Yeah, I much prefer a bet on the turn and a check on the river. Even against Allen. Like some players, you know, even players that don't bluff very often, if they have no hope to win the hand other than bluffing, sometimes they will bluff.
Even Allen's got a bluff once in a while.
Yeah, like he understands his reputation. Allen's a very smart player, and he knows that people always think that he has something that is really tight, so he will.
I thought so.
You know, he will try to take advantage of that sometimes. He'll surprise you now and again and go for a bluff when he thinks his image is going to give it a chance to work, I guess.
Zezkodny with a low 4-card 1-gap rundown. Going to open Yankov in the small blind with 10-9-9-8.
He will be playing.
Yeah, we can feel more comfortable about Yankov playing these type of hands than Allen, I guess.
And this is a hand where a lot of people would normally 3-bet, but he's going to just call.
Kessler
Allen
not
has
playing this one.
Almost the nut worst hand you could have.
Very bad hand.
And he wanted to show someone, so he
good.
got to show the floor man.
Got to
Yeah,
show
trips.
somebody.
Which one?
Can't show the other players.
I can't say which one.
So close to quads.
Yankov with a set and Zezkodny with nothing.
Yeah, this is one of those spots where Zedkodny might not even, he might just surrender. Like he just has absolutely nothing, and he just knows that his opponent has to have something. So he I see a little grin on his face, and he's like, okay, this one I give up. But he does turn a flush draw.
Unfortunately for him, he is still dead. Yankov with a higher flush draw.
So Yankov has a set and a flush draw. He will bet it.
And a bad gut shot. Got a little bit of everything.
Whoa.
Zezkodny is going to call with his flush draw.
Okay, so
It's a big bet,
it's an
too.
awful call, but I don't hate it if you're planning to try and win on like any river.
Right.
And this is a river now that he can win on. Yankov's going to check. And if Zedkodny does not bomb this, then he made possibly the worst call I've ever seen on the turn.
Yeah, he definitely has to bluff here. Looks like he's thinking about
All
it.
right, so I don't mind the call on the turn anymore because he was calling to hit his flush possibly, or just go for it on the
He was
river.
drawing to a bluff
Yeah, and
and
hey,
a bad flush.
and I don't mind that at all. I put a lot of money in on bluff draws.
And Yankov does have the low straight here, but it's not going to be very easy for him to call. So as Codney can easily have basically any hand with a king and another Broadway card. He could have ace king.
But yeah, the thing is that Codney might not be bombing it without the ace king. So
Right,
I
so
think
when he
he's a
bets
little
this,
bit
he's-
polarized, although not necessarily. Like he definitely should be betting his non-ace kings, like his king high straights,
But not necessarily
because
this big.
because his opponent shouldn't have the ace king straights. So sometimes by betting the king high straights, you can fold out another king high straight.
Okay.
So that's why you should definitely be betting your king high straights here when your opponent shouldn't be able to have the ace high straight.
Right.
I think a lot of people make the mistake. He does make the
Ooh,
call
Yankov with
correctly
a
this
call.
time.
Wow.
Nice call by Yankov.
Big
Nice
call
pot.
from Yankov.
And another over million chip pot goes the Yankov.
We are seeing some big pots.
He might have the chip lead now.
We've seen a lot of good bluff catches with low straights at this final table. They're trying to
figure out what he
trying to figure out what he had there. Like, wait, surely this is something. No, nope, it's not.
This is when you got to show a close-up of the guy that just bluffed the river.
Yeah.
Just got to show his face
The
so we can get
embarrassed
into
face.
his mind, see his kind of mind just going over what he just done. I just gave away 500,000 chips because I decided to call with the 7 high flush draw on the turn.
He did follow through with his.
Yeah, and that's what I
bluff
said.
plan.
I don't mind it, but
Do you think he bet too big on the river and polarized himself a little bit?
no. I think I think a pot size bet is probably would have been even. I didn't actually see what the bet size
It was very close to pot. It was like 80%
Yeah,
pot
no,
or
that's
something.
definitely what he should be betting.
Okay.
Even with a king high straight, because you're trying to get the other king high straight to fold.
Right. So if he is betting all of his king high straights that size, then that means Yankov made a pretty bad call, right? 'Cause, I mean, I don't know how many bluffs he's going to have there.
See, but now that's twice now we've seen Yankov go with the strategy of checking to the chip leader to induce the bluff. And one time he was wrong and called with worse, and one time he was right and called with better. So I think it's probably a decided strategy where, he's going to be checking to the chip leader to pot control and induce bluffs.
That makes a lot of sense. So nice pickup for Yankov there.
It's just, it's very hard for Yankov to have the ace high straight when he bets the turn
Right.
and then checks the river. So at that point, you should be able to go for full value with your king high straights and try to fold out the chops. So I'm curious
Kessler.
to see the new chips here to see if we have a new chip leader.
Kessler with some stuff, not much, though. Going to fold.
Nah, yeah.
That's Codney,
I
Jack,
think,
Jack, 8-5.
I think this is going to be limp almost every time now between these two. These two guys are so deep.
100.
Nope. Says
That's
Codney will
Codney
continue
coming in for
with.
the raise.
You can only make it 90.
Trying to raise more than the minimum
You want to
there.
make it 90, right?
The maximum. Allen, of course, immediately picks up on it. Yankov with aces, though.
So this is the second time we've had a pot raise blind versus blind and have the big blind wake up with aces. So Yankov, he's not necessarily going to pot 3-bet. Sometimes he may decide to just call, but he is going to go for the pot 3-bet. So it'll be 270, and Codney will probably call, even though it's really, really, really ugly jacks.
As Codney basically trying to hit a set or a big straight draw here. He has no suits. Yankov has the ace-7 of diamonds.
But again, that's the beauty of PLO is that he can only make it 3x, so he's still getting 2-1, and it's 27%.
And there's the jack.
in the window.
There's the jack. We could see a big pot here. Unfortunately for us, Yankov does have the nut flush blocker.
Yeah.
We'll see if he decides to play this one safe and check, or if he starts with a bet. If he does start with a bet and gets check raised, he could get himself into a lot of trouble here.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to bet, and oh, wow, he does go for the check. Nice check. Although
nice
it's going to
check.
cost him, wow.
And as Codney picks up, the 5's actually bad for him because it gives Yankov less chance to have a 5.
Yeah, but it gives Yankov's never folding anymore, though. On a lot of other turns, Yankov would have maybe folded at
Right.
one point, but now that the board pairs, he's figuring in his mind he's only losing to a 5.
So So
So
now
he's-
is Kodny going to bet twice and Yankov going to call twice, I guess. Depends on what the river is, of
Yeah,
course.
he's definitely calling here. And trying to think what rivers he may fold.
6, 8, 9, 10. I don't know if
But
he's
he,
going to fold all of those.
but he just caught
Club.
he just caught the chip leader bluffing with like 0% equity. So I don't think he's about to make like a big fold. I think this is probably going
Queen of clubs, that might be enough.
Yeah, that's going, but he does have the ace of clubs.
As Kodny checks.
Wow.
Trying to let Yankov hang
Oh.
himself here. Yankov quickly checks back.
So I think that's a kind of miscalculated, check there by Yaskotin. He has to be more aware of his image. He's just been blasting and bluffing, and he decided to trap on the river instead of going for value himself.
Yeah, the way the dynamics played out, it definitely seems like he should be betting and trying to get called thin rather than checking and trying to induce potential bluffs or value bets from worse.
Correct.
Interesting three-handed match here. We're going to see Kessler not involved in too many pots.
I'm all in favor of fast play, but sometimes you got to make sure you're thinking through situations properly.
Yeah, especially playing for this much. All these decisions are quite important, and there's so many decisions being made in a three-handed game. So many chances to play with marginal hands and marginal spots.
Queen 8-8-5. Not a good hand, but he's on the button. And Alan Kessler in the big blind.
Yep, Kessler in the big blind. Going to be
Makes it a full
overfolding quite a bit.
3x.
This hand seems like he will be calling it, but you never know with that one.
This one's really close. He's folding. Yeah.
Shakes his head.
As soon as I saw his little kind of lip kind of quirl.
So, I mean, Alan keeps folding hands that are pretty good equity, but the spots he does get into, he'll probably be a big favorite, so we'll see.
Yeah, he's just trying to avoid getting involved in spots with marginal hands, which I don't mind when there's big ICM considerations involved.
Yeah, especially out of position. I guess in position, that would be a criminal fold. Out of position against the 3x, it's not so criminal.
Like, if it's a min raise, he's just flicking in the chips, but, it's 3x, he just doesn't want to get involved in a big pot with, middle holdings like that. He has a 10 high flush draw and a 7 high flush draw or something like that. You're going to get in a lot of tricky situations.
Yankov coming in for a raise with the king 9 7-6 with the suit.
Alrighty, Alan's got the aces.
Alan's got the aces. Will he repot? He does.
Snap pot.
Snap repot.
So his opponents should know in this spot that 100%, not even 99, 100% Alan has aces. So that's good, and he should be able to get away from kings here, unless they're like double suited kings, then he will probably just peel anyway.
Gonna heavily depend on what his other two cards are. The thing about Alan is exploitable if you adjust to him, but if you're going to give him action, then he is going to be a pretty big favorite here. We'll see if Kodny manages to get away. Also, I'm not sure how much Alan's reputation precedes him over here in Europe. In the States, he is somewhat infamous as being a very tight player.
Yeah, I believe these players will know that Alan only has aces here. Like they have been attacking him blind versus blind. They have been raising his blind. I think looser than other players. So I think I've definitely seen signs that they are aware that he's probably
on the stronger side here.
Yes. I don't think Kodny's ever contemplating four betting unless he has an ace in his hand. If he has ace king king, then maybe he's contemplating going for it. But I think he has to know that Alan only has aces. There's a raise on the button. Alan looked at his cards and just snap said pot.
Yeah, Alan
only has aces.
Disguised. Good fold there by Kodny.
Yeah, like it's an easy fold, not knowing his other two cards, but it's still, he thought through the situation and made the correct decision.
And Yankov now has the opportunity to play in position against a pretty face-up pair of aces. He will take it.
Yep. Very few people will fold in this spot, especially like PLO players. Definitely some no limit hold'em players that are playing a PLO tournament will fold in some spots like this. I know probably I a little bit overfold in these spots, but it obviously depends on my hand. If I have a very loose hand that I opened with on the button and I get pot 3-bet and I don't think it plays well enough, I will probably fold in some spots where other people won't. But This is a really interesting spot. Alan absolutely hates this flop. He's going to be bet folding.
No, he only has pot behind.
I know, but he's not betting pot, which means he decided
Oh, I
he
see,
doesn't
yeah.
want to go with it. But his opponent snap folds, and he's so happy.
He must be very happy to see a snap fold from his opponent there.
If he was going with a hand, he would have just potted. But
Yeah,
he
aces on
decided
that board.
he hates that flop. He doesn't
Not
have
very good.
clubs. He doesn't have any of those cards.
Yeah, and the queen and the jack should hit.
He just
the
decided to
calling range
c
of
bet and
Yash.
hope that his opponent folded. And if his opponent potted, he would have folded and left himself with 10 big blinds or whatever it would have been behind. Not very many.
Well, luckily for Alan, he did not find himself in that spot.
And yeah, it's a pretty interesting spot. But like, if his opponent had any flush draw whatsoever, even like just whatever 6-high flush draw with no pair, he would have put it in, and Alan would have folded, huge equity just because of the way that he decided to play that hand. But I don't know. It's tough for his opponent to have no equity on that flop. Like, he just somehow found an opponent's range that just had absolutely nothing
Yeah, it
on
seems
that
like
flop.
shouldn't he either just pot commit or check there? I mean, small bet doesn't seem.
Yes, but because of his image and like
I guess he gets
like-
played honestly against a small bet. Like,
Yeah.
his opponents aren't going to really be trying to bluff him, but I don't know. What if
like if his opponent has one pair or a flush draw or a good straight draw, he's just going to stick it in, and
Right,
Alan's going to
like-
fold out like 50% equity.
yeah, Alan's going to have 50% very often against a lot of the big draw hands there.
So that was it's a pretty interesting hand.
That's one of the problems with having a 3-bet range that consists of aces, is it makes it pretty easy for your opponents to play against you post-flop.
Yeah. But you do have 2 other cards, and danglers are
They can be pretty relevant.
danglers are important.
Queen hits on the river. That gives Zazakodny the best hand here.
60.
He is going to value bet the river, it looks like. Very thin. So we're 3-handed here in the 2,200 euro pot limit Omaha event. Alan Kessler of the United States vying for his first bracelet. He has 53 cashes, no bracelets yet. This is
Do we know if that's the most?
almost as close as he's been. I don't know, though, actually. Not sure. Maybe guys in our stats booth can give me the heads up on that one.
I'm trying to think of the player. There's someone I have in mind. Oh, no, yeah, Tony Cousineau. I think Tony
many does he
Cousineau
have?
has the most without a bracelet. I'm not sure, but I think it's more.
More than 53, huh? Sounds like a lot, but I mean, it is actually pretty reasonable to cash a lot without winning a bracelet. It's hard to win a bracelet. Zazakodny going to open with a queen 10, 10, 8 here. 10, 8 suited.
No.
Alan says no. Another double suited hand. But Alan picked up, like 11.5, 12 big blinds on that 3-bet, so he can afford to fold a few more orbits now. The problem for him is, even in those spots where he's inflating the pot with the aces, his opponent can easily flop good equity against him, and he's going to have to win a flip at some point. So if he's just getting eaten alive by the blinds and is only getting it in with 55, 60% equity when he does get it in, he's going to have to run good on those all-in spots. But so far, it's worked out for him.
Oh, good.
Alan seems content to surrender the blinds as long as it's going to get him in good spots when the money does go in. Yankov opening the button here with 7-6-6-4 with the 7-6 suited. Opens for pot. Kessler folds the small blinds. Zazakodny in the
I
big
couldn't
blind
fold
with
that hand pre-flop, right?
9-9-6-3.
There's no way I can fold that pre-flop, 4-handed or everyone. No. Yeah.
So Alan's getting some information about hands played from people on his rail.
So you know my hand already.
Yeah, but I had a good hand also. I had like ace-king, I forgot, ace-king, queen, jack, something like that with suits.
Yeah, he's talking about the hand where he raised
completely
blind
missed
versus
the
blind and got
Four
3-bet
highball
by
cards.
aces.
Yeah, horrible
It was
board.
ace, king, queen, 9.
I
Alan
almost went
inflating
all
his
in.
hand a little
Went
bit in
flop.
his
That would
memory
have been
there.
a big mistake.
Yes, he was in bad shape against the aces of Zazakodny.
The button goes around so fast when it's 3-handed.
It does indeed. I'm going to fold anyway, though. Pretty trashy hands. Zazakodny in the small blind with kings with a suit.
So does he continue to raise? Or do we see him change to a limp strategy? He will raise.
Looks like he's raising. Yeah, I definitely prefer the limp strategy.
Yeah, especially against this opponent. Yankov's, I think, calling almost 100%, as we see here with the Queen 9-6-3.
Yeah, Yankov knows that you can't fold much in position here, and indeed he has 38%, so he only needs 33. Plus, with this positional advantage, he actually doesn't even need a full 33. Queen 8-2.
We will see a turn.
Yankov with top pair and a few kickers. Says Kodny with an overpair. He's in a bet. We'll certainly see a turn. Yankov makes a call. To the turn we go. Yankov 40% equity against an overpair. One of the crazier things about PLO for Hold'em players. Says Kodny picks up a flush draw though. Great
That's
turn
gonna
for
go
him. He's going to go into check call mode. Yankov thinking about betting the turn here.
Yeah, maybe trying to get his opponent to fold some one pair hands, fold out some equity.
He does not. River's a 10. That is no help for Yankov. As Kodny has the winner here.
It's going to go check, and then Yankov is going to decide whether he wants to turn his hand into a bluff or not. Quickly
not.
checks.
Interesting spot to bluff, maybe. I mean, you block some two pair. You block the straight. Not that Zad Kodny is going to check the straight very often on the river. And your kickers are pretty bad. But I don't know, top pair is some amount of showdown value, so. Three-handed here at the World Series of Poker Europe in Rosvedov at King's Casino. This table brought to you by King's Casino and 88 Live. I'm your host, Brian Paris. I'm here with Mike Leah. Bringing you guys this PLO bracelet event.
Yeah.
Okay, after 2 levels. Okay. So now just 15 minutes, yeah?
They're going to have a 15-minute break coming up here.
In 15 minutes or right now?
I think it's coming up soon. And then there's going to be a dinner break at 8:30 if we're still going that long.
Not sure which side I like of that. I think it's
Might be the first
really
walk of the whole
close.
final table. I don't think there's been a walk the whole table. On the break, you're going to clean up the chips, right? Because I can't tell what he has.
I'm going to get rid of the 1K first, and then I'm going to follow up. I'm going to put the 100K.
Yeah, so they do have
Yeah, I
a
have
break
no idea what
coming
he has.
soon. Kessler has no idea how many chips Zaz Kodny has.
Yankov with ace-9, ace-7 with the ace-9 suited. Good enough for the button. He's going to come in for a raise.
Now, Alan has 3 cards that he definitely would play if the 4 card has anything to go with it.
See the
And
Kessler head shake.
yeah, that's a fold. So his fourth
Yep.
card is his fourth card's a banana. He didn't show it because it's a banana.
It's pretty funny how well you know the Kessler body language. But he is a regular fixture over in the U.S. events. You don't accumulate 53 caches without playing a lot.
Alan loves the game.
He does. He doesn't always look like he's enjoying the game, but he does truly love the game.
He travels and plays more than most.
He loves the grind.
He also loves slot machines.
It says Kodny is going to be in the lead here with a pair of 3s and a gut shot. Yankov just with a bunch of overcards.
Does Yankov give up, or does he go for the C-bet? He has ace high, no pair, no draw, bet. Zaz Kodny will call.
He is in a bet.
And I anticipate Zaz Kodny winning this hand about 90% of the time. The only way he could not is if Yankov turns a pair like a 7 and it goes check check, and then if he calls the river bet, it's going to go check check for sure. And on some rivers, Yankov may be able to call. This is the scenario. Zaz Kodny's going to bet, and what?
Nope,
He's
he's
trying to
just
show
gonna
down his
his
pair of
threes.
threes.
And Yankov is content to show down his 7 here, I think.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Wow. I think just Zaskodny just, I think, isn't
I completely messed up that hand.
taking enough time. So Alan,
I completely
It
messed
was
up
a
that
bad,
hand.
bad fold.
A
do you have?
bad fold.
Ace, what do you have? Ace, Queen, Jack, and we didn't see the other one. So I guess he would have, what could he have made, I guess? Or did, I guess the trips. Maybe his banana was trips. Yeah, I think Zaskodny's like getting to rivers and then not making the correct decision, in my opinion, a couple times. Well, it's been a long grind. They've been playing for, this is the 3rd day of this tournament, and they are going on break.
I thought he was just going to go with that hand, but that's why I just went with it.
We're on a 15-minute break here, guys. We're going to be back after that. We're going to be playing 3-handed for the bracelet. Alan Kessler, Lucas Zaskodny, and Krasimir Yankov playing 3-handed for the bracelet here.
They have a 10-seat guarantee satellite for the main event here tonight, so I may go splash around in that. And
All right, well, good
try and
luck
win a main event seat.
if you do, and hopefully hopefully we won't see you back later, but if we do, we wouldn't mind.
Yeah,
Thanks
sounds
for
good.
joining us, Mike.
All right, thanks for having me.
Middle pair, backdoor flush draw. So now we'll see if we're going to see a call or a raise here. This pot getting quite large already. First really big pot we've had 15 hands in. Most of these players have been opting to play small ball. These two guys are going right after it. Koliofotis calls.
145.
That wasn't the right change.
Yeah, you should give 5,000 back to the pot. It was 145.
That was 5K too much.
He put 150, you put back 110K.
What did you know?
145.
Okay.
Yeah, it's correct.
Small mistake in the pot there, but we fixed it. And Koliofotis makes the nuts on the turn.
How much is that?
Decides to just check.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wow.
Koliofotis looks very comfortable here, as he should. He has the nuts. And now it's up to Tweedo. Does he want to keep bluffing at this pot? It's already 700,000 in the middle and roughly pot behind. If he does continue bluffing, he is going to get the bad news. And it looks like Tweedo is reaching for chips here. He's betting 260 on the turn. Unfortunately for him, Koliofotis
All in.
immediately shoves. And Tweedo with nothing here, just going to have to fold. Koliofotis with that pot is going to move into first place, I believe. Huge pickup for him. Almost a Flopolis, and now we have Koliofotis. Koliofotis is going to play his rush here, coming in with a very weak hand. Over to Zaskodny with aces. Weak aces, though, no suits. He does have a 6-5 of clubs to go with his aces. He's just going to make the call. not trying to make the pot too large with weak aces. Van Holstein in a big blind. We'll see a flop. Says Cody in the lead here. And he flops top set. This is another benefit to flatting with aces, is that people are not going to put you on top set. So we'll see if Zazkodny can win a big one here. Unfortunately for him, his opponents have not flopped much. And in Omaha, even a dry-looking board like this, you generally want to bet to protect with your top set. And Hold'em, this would be a pretty clear check back with top set because the best anyone could have against you is a gut shot. But in Omaha, it's pretty easy for people to have wrap draws, you know, a bunch of backdoor equity. And Koliafotis is going to call the flop here with a gut shot. I'm sorry, he doesn't even have a gut shot. He just has, no, he does. He has a low gut shot. And he has a few different backdoors. He turns 2 pair. That's no help for him. He's going to need exactly a 5 going into the river if he wants to win this hand. Zazkodny also has the clubs covered, and he has one of his 5s blocked. Zazkodny did just see Koliafotis check shove the turn with a low straight on a board like this, so it's got to be somewhat concerning, but he does block a 5. And if he is behind, he still has a bunch of outs with his flush draw and his set. So he's going to keep betting here. Koliafotis with 2 weak pair and a gut shot at this point. He will make the call. We're going into the river.
83.
Koliafotis will need a 5 to win this hand. Got 3 of them left in the deck. It's a 7. Zazkodny improves to the nut straight. Top set wasn't good enough. Wanted a nut straight to go with it. Another funny thing about Omaha. Doesn't happen very often in Hold'em where your top set improves to the nut straight on the river, but in Omaha it can happen. And Zazkodny sitting here with everything, deciding how is he going to make the most out of this hand. Good place to be at a final table. And I think a small bet would make the most sense here for Zazkodny, seeing as how he has 3 of the aces. It's pretty difficult for his opponent to have better than 2 weak pair in this spot. So betting something small seems to me to be the way to go, but he is betting about half pot. I kind of would have liked like a quarter pot there. Koliafotis does make the call. And he is up against everything. Huge pot there for Zazkodny. So his bet sizing was better than mine, it seems. I would have made less. His approach to Van Holstein, who I don't think we've seen play very many pots so far. He's won like the blinds once. He's seen a flop out of the big blind once.
New try, 55.
Koliafotis getting back on the horse with the ace-king 7-4. Engelke right behind with a suited ace. Ace-queen 9-8. And he's got to figure out if he wants to commit his 7 big blinds here. Looks like he just calls. Tweeto right behind with ace-queen 7-7 double suited. He will call as well. Yankov going to fold the button. Or Van Holstein in the small blind. Going to fold. Barbarez in the big blind with 10s. Not much else, but he is not going to see the flop. I thought the set mine value of the 10s would be enough there, but Engelke flops a straight draw, and that's going to be enough for him. He is in there. He's got a pretty decent wrap here, right? Tweedo actually out in front with the 7s, but hard to know that. He does have ace-queen. Engelke is all in for his last 61,000 here. Pluto with a backdoor flush draw and ace-queen. Getting about 4-1. Good enough. And Koliafotis behind, also getting 4-1. We'll surely see a turn. All three players see a turn here. Tweedo actually with a pretty big lead with his 7s. Everyone else has each other's outs blocked. The turn is a 6, no help for anybody. Tweedo still in front. River Jack. And that's going to be all she wrote for Engelke. Tweedo is going to win a 3-way all-in with a pair of 7s in Omaha. Realistically speaking, yeah. Yankov under the gun with weak jacks will make the fold. And Holstein with the aces. Not such good aces. No suits and 9-2 to go with them, but they are still aces. Looks like he has raised. Barber has been pretty quiet so far. Folds there. Koliafotis, I suspect, will not be going anywhere with this hand. 10-10, 9-7 with a suit. Gonna see a flop. Tweedo with the ace-9, 8-2 double suited on the button.
He made the final table of the 1K as well, right? The
Yeah,
1K
he got
turbo.
fourth in the turbo,
Yeah.
second final table for him. We've seen a couple of people out here make multiple final tables. Him and Sergio Fernandez, who got 3rd and 5th in the first 2 events. Some nice performances out here at the World Series of Poker Europe as Kessler in the small blind with queens with the suit has to decide if he wants to see a flop here.
It's an interesting spot.
Basically, it's a set mine, right?
Yeah, but
He is
I
not
wouldn't
gonna
say
do
the
it.
suits are really bad, and the rest of it is pretty bad. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be too surprised to see fold.
Kessler is nothing if not disciplined. And Zazkodny in the big blind with a fairly weak hand, but he is in the big blind, so he'll see a flop.
And that's a really tough hand to play.
He actually has the most equity right now, amusingly enough. But it's going to be quite difficult to realize it, I suspect.
Yes, and when he makes his flushes, he's going to be almost never getting much value out of it.
Koliafotis with gut shot flush draw. Oh, that's actually a wrap, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a wrap. Pretty good flop for him.
And Holstein with the aces is going to lead out. Seems like a fairly ambitious lead, actually. 4-way, somebody's going to just hit this board really hard, right? He does have one blocker to some of the draws with his 9 of hearts, but other than that, he's going to get raised by Koliafotis, who is a big favorite with his wrap and flush draw.
Min raised.
The min raise.
How do you play against that?
It's actually pretty tough because it's
Yeah.
you can't really continue.
I do know he plays a lot of PLO,
Yeah,
so
I've seen him at a Holland Casino a bunch.
he has, I think, a decent understanding of what to do in these spots. because you just get him if you play a bunch of PLO.
Yeah, it seems like fold is the only option there.
Yep.
Actually, I was surprised to see him even.
Decent chance he gets it again.
Gave it over to Zazkodny. Took him one hand to do so. Zazkodny seems to be a little bit more selective as he folds that one. And Holstein on the cutoff with 4 diamonds. Good enough for the cutoff. He's been fairly in line, so he should get respect on his raise. Barbarez has been quite quiet the whole final table. Koliofotis has not been quiet. He will see a flop here. Double suited Jack 8-7-7, and then Tweedo in the big blind has also not been quiet. Ace 8-7-6.
You
Soon he'll come along.
You really want the ace high suit, but still it's a pretty good hand.
Yeah, good enough for the big blind anyway.
Yeah.
Van Holstein would have a flush if he could play all 4 of his cards, but that is not how Omaha works. Koliofotis with the top set here. Tweeto with a gut shot. We've seen Tweeto willing to take some very creative, aggressive lines, and his hand looks pretty good here. He has top pair with a few different kickers. He has a gut shot. He has a backdoor flush draw. But he is going to run straight into the set of Koliofotis, and Holstein will get out of the way.
I think the most important part of his hand that he blocks top set.
250.
He does block top set, but
250.
250. Looks like Koliofotis trying to raise less than the minimum here. As Tweeto has let out for 140.
That is interesting.
I assume they'll, one of the bet sizes must be incorrect, or else the dealer's gonna.
The 250 is good. I think he let out for 105.
Okay, that makes sense.
I see that correct.
He does make the call, but Tweeto going to be in trouble here unless he can hit a 5. A spade would help his cause.
Something going wrong with the graphics.
Yeah. Ten on the turn gives a.
It's a double gut shot.
Koliofotis actually has a higher gut shot with the Jack 8. And he is in a pot, which pretty much is an all-in against Tweeto's stack here.
I do not see Tweedo call here.
Tweedo with 10%. Double gut shot. Not a whole lot else.
You might think that he's up against a rep, but even against that, he's not that good. And if he's up against a set, he's pretty much dead.
And that is indeed the spot he finds himself in. Pretty much dead. Koliofotis, very aggressive player, though, so we're going to see what Tweedo decides on here. Looks like he's leaning towards fold.
I think he's taking quite long for the fold, actually. I do not see many ways he can call this turn.
He does not like to fold, Tweedo. And he's trying to figure out if he can get to 35% or whatever he needs. I guess a little more to continue. He does not. Koliofotis will win that one.
He probably thought he needed a little bit less, because when he calls on big...
We are back, folks. Three-handed in the 2200 PLO event. The blinds have gone up to 20K and 40K. Yankov going to be limping the small blind with queens. Kessler checks it back in the big blind with a suited ace. Comes king, 7, king. No help to either player. Yankov is still in the lead with his queens. He will check. Yankov's going to have to do most of the betting himself. Kessler is not going to be taking stabs at pots very wide. Yankov with just showdown value.
2 pair.
He will check all three. Kessler announces 2 pair.
You're a better.
And we're going to be seeing a lot of those small pots with Kessler. A 2 big blind pot. These players have a lot of chips in front of them. We could be here a while, folks. I'm your host, Brian Paris. I had Mike Leah in the booth with me here, but he has gone to play the satellite, so you're stuck with just me for a little bit. We might get someone else in here soon, though. Krasimir Yankov with second place stack, 59 big blinds. Looking to add more than 50% to that live earnings total. He's got a double suited hand on the button. Not a great one, but got some stuff going on. He's going to come in for a raise. Or no, that's just a call.
Please, can you put cards to the box? And spread them.
At least I think it's just a call. Kessler in the small blind with some double suited low cards. Says Codney in the big will also make the fold, so it must have been a raise then. Yankov takes it down. So we might see some big pots between Zeskodny and Yankov. Kessler, I don't think will be playing big pots without very strong hands, at least until we get a little bit shallower. Three-handed here. First place is 94,000 euros and the bracelet. Kessler by far the most experienced of these three players with 53 WSOP caches. No bracelets yet, though. No bracelets yet. Kessler on the button with a pretty bad hand here. Haven't really seen him play very many of these type of hands. Seventh WSOP final table for Kessler, all in different games. Second place 3 times. Says Codney, this is his first WSOP cache. He lives in Prague. He has 39 years of age with 2 kids. And Yankov lives in Sofia from Bulgaria. This is his second WSOP cache. His first one was earlier this week in the 500 PLO. So we have 2 guys with 1 cache between them, and then we have Kessler with 53 caches. We're going to see a flop here between Zeskodny and Yankov, both with pretty poor hands. As you can see, the equity is running quite close here in PLO. $10-7-5 is the flop with 2 spades. Zeskodny opts to c-bet with his straight draw. Yankov with bottom 2, just going to make the call. In Hold'em, you might see a raise for protection here. In PLO, if you raise and get called, you're actually not really going to be that far ahead of the range it calls you, so better to proceed with caution, try to reach showdown. Zeskodny, no help for him, but he still has the same straight draw, and the ace is going to make the board a bit scarier for Yankov. Zeskodny will bet again, 200,000. Yankov still with just 2 pair. No draws other than his boat draw. He will make the call. So Zeskodny is either going to need to hit a straight or bluff again to win this hand. That's a 5, no good. The flush comes in. Zeskodny opts to check. Yankov made a boat. So good check by Zazkoni. Yankov was not going anywhere against a third bet. Now Yankov deciding how much he wants to bet. Looks like a big one. Bet the pot. Allen showing his rail that there is a big pot going on, but unfortunately for Allen, the pot will end right here. Zazkoni cannot call this pot size bet with 9 high. Hard to have 9 high by the river in PLO, but Zazkoni pulled it off there.
You two are even now.
Allen has his eyes set very much on second place here. Of course, he wants that bracelet, but he's going to make sure he locks up second before he takes any big risks. I don't think it's an accident that Allen has 3 second places. I'm sorry, he has 57 WSOP caches. I thought it was 53. I was lowballing him by 4 caches there. But yeah, Mr. Kessler is very much a fixture of the U.S. poker scene, and he occasionally makes it over here to Europe as well. Yankov with aces, going to raise blind versus blind against Allen. Ooh, and Allen has a 4-card rundown this time. Even Allen is not going to manage to fold this one. We'll see a flop. Heads up to the flop we go. No help for Allen. Yankov with the top pair to go with his aces. Top pair and an overpair. Kessler with not much. Yankov leads out 150. Now Kessler does have top pair and a bunch of kickers, excuse me. I misread his hand at first. So Kessler's going to see a turn, of course. Kessler 40% equity. And he improves to 2 pair on the turn. Not a great turn for Yankov. He can't like that one. And the pot has already reached a fairly large amount here, 540K in the middle. Kessler with about 2 times the pot behind, as you can see. Yankov checks, and Kessler now with top 2 and a gut shot. Will surely bet for protection. It's like 350, maybe a little more. Kessler pots. And Yankov now with just 1 pair. You could hit a 4 or a 5 or an ace. But he is way behind here against the 2 pair of Allen Kessler. Aces and PLO not nearly as good as they are in Hold'em, especially as the board develops on the later streets. Yankov also has a jack blocker, so he does have to decide how much he believes Kessler here, but Kessler has been very in line. Yankov with a good fold. Disciplined laydown with the aces. Kessler just happy to win a big pot there.
Hello, just a short break in the action as we let you know what's going on elsewhere in the tournament rooms. I'm here with Barney Boatman because he is one of 54 players left in the 7th flight of the Colossus. I think they started with around 318 today, so it's going good?
Yeah, it's going well so far today. The overlay is going to be huge because they needed 750 in each of the last 4 flights, and they only got half of that today.
Yeah, so 3 more flights. So get here, people. There's going to be a lot of value, basically. But yeah. I have a feeling that those last 3 flights are going to be very full because the numbers each flight have been going up and up and up.
Yeah, well, they're going to have to turn up from somewhere because they've got a lot to make up there.
Yeah. Now, behind me is obviously the final table of event 6, which is the PLO 2200. You played that event as well. Tell us about that.
Yeah, actually I was going well up until the very last level of the first day. I had kind of had over average chips, but then I took on aces a few times and never managed to crack them. So it's one of those things.
And last year you won the PLO event here as well. So tell us, what does it take to be a champion here today?
Well, if I won it, that answers your question, doesn't it? You just have to be lucky. No, I mean, it's, Omaha is a very formed game, but obviously, you have to know how to value your hands, and you have to be brave when you've got to be brave. But it's actually, people don't realise how much time you've got in this game. There's, it's pot limit. There's no antes. You can keep your cool, and old cautious fellas like me have got a chance.
Okay, who do you think is going to win out of these three? The one with the most chips, he says.
Well, the guy on the end here in seat 8 was on my left all day on day one, and I was having a bit of a laugh with him. Actually, I was trying to enroll him for a career as a comedian.
Oh, really?
He thinks I'm his agent. He thinks he's going to be doing a song and dance routine at the London Palladium.
Oh, maybe he can do that after.
Yeah, but he's a good player, and so I'm going to back him because he's the only one. Well, actually, no, it's not the only one I know, but I'm backing him. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, wish you all the best of luck in the Colossus. You're nearly at the end of the break, so you've got to go back and play that. Any other tournaments you're excited to play after this one? Hopefully you do well in Colossus.
Well, I mean, I'm obviously very excited to play the main event. It's going to be absolutely massive, so that's... And if I don't get through the Colossus, then there's my favourite event tomorrow, which is the high-low. But I really hope that I won't be playing that.
Fingers crossed. Thank you so much, Barney Bowman. We're going to go back to the action at this final table as 3 remain, and they are fighting for that gold bracelet and that first place prize of €93,000.
And Barney Boatman there, who was co-hosting a stream with me during the 550 PLO table. He is busy today, though, it seems. Best of luck to him in the Colossus. And Kessler with double suited aces. No surprise. Yankov with a flush draw and 2 set draws. Yankov actually has almost 50% equity, but his draws can't look too good to him. He may go for a check raise here because it's very difficult for Allen to have a 3. Especially if Allen decided to raise blind versus blind, he's basically never going to have a 3. So Yankov looks like he's going to put some pressure on Allen's range here. He raises. Nice raise by Yankov here. All he has is some mediocre draws, but he still has about 48% equity, and he's putting a ton of pressure against Kessler. The problem with playing as tight as Allen does in PLO is that it's very difficult for you to have a 3 in your hand. So when you do decide to bet with your aces in a spot like this, your opponent can really put you into a tough guessing game. And now Allen is faced with 2 very unsavory choices. He can either commit a bunch of chips with aces and potentially be drawing the 2 outs, or he can fold and be folding 50% equity. So he decides to call. We'll see what happens on the turn. So Kessler with a nice hand right now, but any heart, any 6, or any 4 will give Yankov the pot. Huge pot we have going here. 5 of hearts on the turn, that gives Yankov the best hand. He also has a 2-out straight flush draw now to go with his 4-out boat draw. But he doesn't need any of that. He has the best hand right now. He puts Kessler all in on the turn. And Kessler now will surely have to fold his aces. Even if Yankov was semi-bluffing the flop, Kessler is no longer in the lead with his aces. Allen Kessler in a tough spot here. He only has $1 million behind. The pot's 3.5, but he is drawing to 10%. We need an ace or a 3 to win this hand on the river, and he makes the fold. Yankov wins a big one.
Bad run out.
Bad run out, says Kessler.
Best run I've
Indeed,
had
he
all
did
day.
put in the chips ahead and folded once he got caught up to. So Krasimir Yankov from Bulgaria will win that pot. Says Kodny with a pretty connected hand on the button. 3 clubs, unfortunately. He's going to come in for a raise. It is good enough to play. Yankov with kings in the small blind. Deciding whether he wants to 3-bet or just call. Looks like just a call. And Kessler in the big blind will fold with no suits and a somewhat unconnected hand. We're going heads up to the flop here. Yankov way in the lead. And Yankov flops top set against Kodny's open-ended straight flush draw. And middle pair. We could see a big one here. Yankov just calling. Trying to see a safe turn before committing too many chips here. Top set can actually be an underdog in this spot against a draw with a sufficient number of outs. And Kodny has improved to a flush here on the turn. Yankov still has outs to improve with his top set. He could make a full house. Gonna go check on the turn here. Says Kodny misses a chance to charge his opponent, and he's not going to get any more value from this one. Yankov loses to too many hands now. And we'll probably see Kodny value bet the second nuts here on the river. He does block a lot of the lower flushes from Yankov, so it's hard for him to get value in this spot, but he missed some value on the turn. Yankov would have had to call the turn. But Kodny will be winning the pot at least. He bets pretty big on the river, 350, and Yankov, not the run out he was looking for with his top set here. Makes the fold. Lucas Zadkozny from Czech Republic, the hometown hero, making a run at this one. This is his first WSOP cash.
Thank you.
You can see Kevin McPhee in the stands there. He won the main event here 2 years ago. Railing Alan Kessler. Got a very comfortable rail over there. I've been railing a few of the events myself when I'm not in the booth, and these chairs are comfy. That's one thing they got going at the King's Casino. The cash game chairs are really nice. The railing chairs are nice. As you can see, the chairs at this final table are fantastic, but it's not just the final table. I mean, a lot of places have final tables with nice chairs, but here all the cash game tables, or at least many of them, have similarly nice chairs. So very comfortable playing experience here at King's Casino in Rosvedov. A lot of good cash game action these last few days. As we're seeing the Colossus finish its final few flights. There's one more flight tonight and 2 more flights tomorrow for the Colossus. Yankov takes that one down. The dealer reminding everyone to put their cards where we can see them. This is our 6th of 11 bracelet events, but it's our 5th, but it's number 6 because the Colossus was number 5. I'm your host, Brian Paris, B Paris Poker on Twitch. Follow me on there. I will be streaming 5 days a week again when I get back home. Once I'm done doing the commentary out here. So that's Codney in the small blind with a pretty marginal hand here. He has one suit. He will just limp. So a limp check here. As you can see, the equities are almost exactly 50-50 pre-flop. That changes post-flop, though, as Codney has flopped the nuts with the queen 10. Does Codney get a bet on the turn? 150. Yankov has picked up a flush draw with his Jack-5 of spades. He will make the call. So Yankov needs a flush to win. He can also hit a chop with a queen. That's a 4, no help for Yankov. As Codney maintains the nuts. Now Lucas Codney has to decide how much he thinks he can get here. He's betting the river for 330. And Yankov is going to reach the end of the line with this hand. He will fold. Decent pickup for Codney there. You see the pots tend to inflate pretty quickly post-flop, even in limp pots pre. Just the nature of the game. Equities run so close that you frequently want to be charging your opponent quite a bit to see more cards. Lots of opportunities to build big pots here in PLO. This is a 2,200 euro PLO event. These players are playing for a first place prize of 93,677 euros and the gold bracelet, of course. Alan Kessler has been a runner-up 3 times in WSOP events. He's trying to close this one out. Codney will fold his button there with a pretty weak hand. Yankov in the small blind. King 9-7-6 with a suit. And Kessler in the big blind with 10s. Kessler checks. Kessler deciding to play small ball this whole final table. As Yankov flops a straight draw and a flush draw with a pair. Kessler has a better flush draw. Kessler also has the best pair as it stands right now. A bet and a call. We go to the turn. Turn is a 7. That gives Yankov the lead with 2 pair. Kessler with straight blockers. Kessler not much of a bluffer, but this seems like an interesting spot to consider it with the 2 straight blockers. He does not. And the river is a 9. That actually gives Yankov the win with 2 pair, but Kessler again with the straight blockers. Might try to make use of them here.
Too bad.
He does not. And Kessler giving up on a pretty good spot to bluff there. When you have 2 10s in your hand, it's quite difficult for your opponent to have the good end of the straight here. Kessler content to try to make hands with showdown value. Did not do it there.
Such a good flop for you. Turn on the river was disaster. So.
Kessler down to 22 big blinds in 3rd place. He's waiting for a good spot to get the money in. His best live cash, 276,000. That was for 2nd place in the 10K Stud 8 event back in 2010. He is no stranger to final tables. He has 7 of them. He's finished second in 3 of them, all different games. Zaskodny in the big blind with Jack 8-7-5 with the 8-7 suited. We're going heads up to the flop. Yankov flops the nuts and a flush draw to go with it. It says Kodny with just a pair and a backdoor flush draw. Yankov with a truly monstrous hand here. The type of hand you want in PLO, but he is not going to get action. Unfortunately for him, no action that time. Three-handed here. No antes in PLO, so patience can pay off, but Kessler is getting to the point where he's going to have to do something before too long. King 10-6-3, probably not going to be with this hand. 3 hearts as well. Not ideal. You want exactly 2 of a suit in your hand in PLO if you're going to have a suited hand. Preferably a double suited hand. But yeah, having the 3rd spade in your hand like Zaskodny has here is just a liability. It means that there's just 1 less spade in the deck for you to hit. So we're going to see a raise and a call here, blind versus blind. Both players with fairly marginal hands, but Zaskodny in the lead here with his King, Queen, Jack 7. No help for either player on the flops. Zaskodny ahead with King high. He is in a C-bet, and that should end the hand. Lucas Zaskodny from Czech Republic. 39 years of age with 2 children. This is his first WSOP cash. Can he close it out? You can see the payouts there on the right. So it's Kodny going to fold his button there. Over to Yankov in the small blind, a double-suited, somewhat connected hand. I believe Yankov meant to raise, but Kessler is going to correctly make it a call based on the 1 chip.
Go ahead and take 5K back. You got 45 out.
If you just throw out 1 chip and don't say anything, that does mean call, so Kessler absolutely correct there. Limp and check. Kessler preferring to see a minimum pot. And Yankov flops the 2nd nuts with Queen 9. He also has a flush draw to go with it. Kessler with absolutely nothing. Yankov is going to pot, and that will end the hand, I think. Kessler does have a straight draw, but it's a very bad one. Not going to cut it in Omaha. Kessler getting ground down now. These other 2 guys playing a lot more pots. For a tight player like Alan Kessler, it can be difficult to play 3-handed. You find yourself with so many marginal hands. If your opening requirements are too stringent, you have a lot of difficulty playing enough hands to keep up with the blinds. Even in Omaha with no antes, the blinds will still get you. But Kessler did get unlucky with those aces. Yankov going to fold his button there. Over to Kessler in the small blind with a fairly marginal holding. If his ace was suited to one of the other cards, I think he'd play this. Without it, he might not. We are three-handed in the 2200 pot limit Omaha event. First 93,600 and the bracelet. This is our 6th of 11 bracelet events out here. It's only the 5th final table we've done, event number 5. The Colossus still has 3 more flights. 2 million guarantee on the Colossus. 500 euro buy-in. One of the easiest ways to turn your 500 euros into a lot of money. If you are anywhere near Rosvidov, I would recommend you come out here, play one of these last flights of the Colossus. We may even get some overlay. So we see Zazkodny limp here, and we're going to see Yankov raise with a pretty strong hand. Ace 9, 8, 7 with the ace 9 suited. See a limp and a call from Zazkodny. He has the ace 2 suited, and he's got ace 2, 4, 3. Very good hand in PLO 8, not so good in PLO high, but he flops well here. He's flopped a wrap draw. Yankov with top pair. Zazkodny with a lot of outs to make a straight here. And also a backdoor flush draw, should it come to that. Yankov is going to bet. And we'll see a call from Zazkodny. We're going to the turn. Jack on the turn, that gives Yankov the nut flush draw, as well as a high gut shot that he doesn't really need. Zazkodny still with a lot of ways to make it straight, but the clubs have been killed for him here. And we'll see if Yankov keeps betting or if he decides to check now.
Look at my Hedemar picture. It looks pretty good.
390 for Yankov.
The Hedemar picture is from 2005.
So Yankov or Zazkodny in a somewhat tough spot here. He does have a decent draw, but he's out of position. It's going to be hard to get paid if he gets there. He does make the call. Going to see a river. So Zazkodny needs a low card. Yankov needs a club or a high card. It's an 8. That gives Yankov the nuts. And Zazkodny does not improve. So now it's on him to decide if he wants to bluff this spot. He could try to blast Yankov off of 2-pair straight, but unfortunately for Zazkodny, Yankov actually has the nut flush. Zazkodny leading out, but unfortunately for him, he has walked right into a trap here. This Yankov with the nut flush. And Yankov is going to move into a commanding chip lead with this hand. Deciding how much to raise. Whether he wants to just go for all of it or less than all of it. Good spot to be in for Yankov.
All in.
And he does move all in. Zazkodny sitting there with a pair of deuces, not going to be able to call. So Yankov takes a commanding lead there.
Maybe.
Chip leader, maybe. Now you're definitely the chip leader, Mr. Yankov. Very nice pickup for him there. Zazkodny with a pretty nice hand on the button here. but he has to be a little more careful now. He is in danger of potentially busting before Allen does. So he's going to have to play a little tighter in 3-bet pots, but he raises the button with a very nice hand at Jack 8, 9, 7. Allen on the big blind with Ace, Jack 3 and something. And Zazkodny will take that one down. Allen continuing his trend of not playing marginal hands. Unfortunately for him, 3-handed in PLO, there's going to be a lot of marginal hands. So he is going to need to get a hot run of cards to get back in contention here. Already got quite lucky to stay alive earlier when he got it in with bottom 2 against the nut straight and the nut flush draw. And river to boat. He's locked up 40,000 euro. First is 93,677 plus the bracelet.
Prohrál jsem velký pot, ale mám
Here at the King's Casino in Rosvedal. This final table brought to you by King's Casino and 888 Live. See the stacks there on the right. Kessler way in last. Zazkodny solidly in second, but 60 big blinds in PLO can go fast. Yankov on the button with 10s. He is a chip leader now, so we'll see if he opens up his ranges a bit. This hand perfectly reasonable for a button raise anyway. So they're coming for 140. Kessler with trip jacks. That's no good. You'd never want to have trips in PLO. One of the worst things you can have. Kessler content to sit back and hope that these guys bust each other, but the stacks are such that he is very much in danger. We're out here in Rosvedal on the Czech-German border. 3 more flights left in the Colossus if you guys are anywhere near here. 2 million guarantee on that one, 550 euro buy-in. That is a bracelet event. I'm your host, Brian Paris. I go by B Paris Poker on Twitch. Also, same thing on Twitter, Facebook, etc. I'm going to be streaming online high-stakes MTTs 5 days a week as soon as I'm done doing the commentary out here. I'll be out here for another few days, and then David Tuckman will be replacing me for the last few events.
120.
Yankov picks up aces in the big blind here. He is in a pot over Zazkodny's limp. Zazkodny seeing a flop with a somewhat weak hand. He has 38%. PLO for you. Even a raggedy weak hand is 38% against aces. And Zazkodny in the lead now with 2 low pair. He also has a gut shot. Yankov checks back, playing it safe on this low board. 10 of clubs on the turn. Zazkodny solidifies his lead. Neither player has a flush. River's an 8. And it's just going to go check, check all the way down. Zazkodny will win with 2 pair. Yankov's ace is no good. He did not lose any money post-flop, though. Decent result there for Mr. Yankov from Bulgaria. His second WSOP cash. His first one was also in the PLO. That was last week in the 550. He finished in the money there. And now he is 3-handed with a big chip lead for the bracelet in the 2200. This is Zazkodny with a 10-7-6-3 on the button. Gonna make the fold. Pretty weak hand. Yankov blind versus blind against Kessler. Gonna call. And Kessler with a Badugi in the big blind here, meaning a hand of 4 different suits. We'll check. PLO game involving a lot of flushes and straights. You kind of want your cards to be connected and suited if possible, but when you're playing 3-handed, you can't be too choosy. Yankov flops bottom pair. Kessler with a gut shot. Turn is a 4, gives Yankov 2 pair. Kessler picks up another gut shot. We haven't seen Allen bluff in a lot of these spots, but he does decide to bet here. Putting pressure on Yankov's check twice range. Yankov folds a 2 pair face up. A lot of respect for Allen there. Allen did not have it. So Allen finally using his image to good effect there. He's passed up on a couple other spots to bluff. He takes that one. And he's still alive. Fighting for a bracelet, 3-handed. Allen Kessler, 57 World Series cashes. This would be his first bracelet if he manages to get there. Kessler with Jack 10-10-3, no suits. In the small blind. He will limp. Over to Zazkodny, who has Ace King 6-4 with a suit. That's a pretty good hand. Exactly a flip, as you can see. But Zazkodny position in his hand is a little bit more playable, so unless Kessler flops a set. Kessler does have an overpair, but Zazkodny with the straight draw. Kessler's going to lead out with his overpair. Zazkodny with an open-end straight draw and a backdoor flush draw. We'll call the flop. Turn is a 10. That gives Kessler top set. He's going to keep betting. Zazkodny with just the bad straight draw now may wind up folding on the turn to almost a pot-sized bet from Kessler. His hand had some potential on the flop. This is not the turn he wanted. He's staying in there anyway, though. So Zazkodny will need a deuce or a 7 to win the hand. He hits an 8. That's not going to do it. The flush does come in. Neither player has it, though. We'll see if Zazkodny decides to bluff. He has very little showdown equity, so it seems like a hand where he might bluff. And Kessler making the speech, but he actually has the best hand. Does he get a bluff catch? Very bad river for him. He loses to straights, he loses to flushes. Well, it's an open question as to whether Zazkodny would bluff this size with it, or value bet this size with a straight. Kessler has to figure this out now. He does make the call, and he's going to win. Nice call by Allen Kessler there. He only beat a bluff, but Zazkodny did indeed have a bluff. So Kessler wins a big one. Nice stack increase for him there. He needed it. So the blinds will be going up before too long. They'll be 25 and 50. Right now they're 20 and 40. We're playing our levels here in the 2,200 Euro Pot Limit Omaha event here at the World Series of Poker Europe. Allen Kessler in third place, but winning a big pot there. A lot of action going on this week at the Kings Casino in Rosvidov. There's a really big cash game last night we had televised on the Poker Room Kings Twitch stream. The Phil Hellmuth Invitational cash game. Kessler going to raise the button here with the Queen Jack 8-3 double suited. Towards the bottom end of the hands he's willing to play, but on the button, you do have an advantage. And Zazkodny here with Queen 9-7-7 double suited. He's going to make the call. And Yankov will call the big blind with 10-10, 8-7. So Kessler with a lot of equity here. We'll see what he flops. He flops the second nut flush. And Yankov with a lower flush. This is a good spot for Kessler. Yankov with the fourth nut flush. He does have a 3% equity. He would have to hit a running full house to win the hand, though. Turn is a 5, no help for Yankov. Kessler checks back the turn.
Check.
And the river pairs the 4. Kessler will bet the river for 300,000. Yankov with a pretty good flush here, but he has to worry about Kessler having a full house now. Kessler wins this pot, he will be up to almost 2 million chips again. Barring some sort of crazy bluff from Yankov, he is going to win the pot.
This one you represented only set of aces. Bet, check back.
Yankov is wrong about Kessler having a set of aces, but he is right that he is beat.
You're not gonna bet ace 4.
Big spot here for Yankov. He does have the chip lead, but he does not want to give Kessler any more chips than he has to. I think the more relevant question for Yankov here is how many bluffs is Kessler going to have? I think the answer is not too many.
How much is in the pot?
Kessler looking comfortable.
650.
Figures that he's at least going to win if he hasn't been called by now. So it's just a matter of does he win this pot or does he also win his river bet? You're on hand number 100 of this final table. Krasimir Yankov of Bulgaria. Will he make the call? He does not. Good fold there by Yankov. And he'll find out how good of a fold he made in half an hour. Yankov losing pretty much the minimum there. All he lost was the flop bet. Kessler's turn check. Cost him a little bit there. Maybe if the board doesn't pair, he gets a river bet out of Yankov. Trying not to get stacked by the king high flush. So we take a look at our stacks now. Kessler is almost caught up to Zaskodny. Yankov still with over half the chips in play though. Here are the payouts. Next pay jump is about 17.5, and then the pay jump after that is the one that matters. That is where the bracelet and the 93,677 euro first place prize come into play. See a couple of former champions on Kessler's rail there. Ryan Rice, who won the main event in 2013, and then Kevin McPhee, who won this main event in 2015. Zaskodny raising the button here with the ace-jack 10-5. Yankov will fold his small one. Kessler in the big, ace 10, 8-8. With the ace 10, 8 of the diamonds. 85,000 to win a pot of 185. He will see a flop. So to the flop we go. Kessler slightly in the lead here. Very flop dependent. Queen 4 deuce. As Codeney picks up a gut shot, Kessler is ahead with his 8s. Kessler also has a backdoor flush draw. As Codeney will check here. As Codeney picks up a gut shot to go with his other gut shot, but Kessler makes a set. So that's Codeney with just 2 gut shots right here. Kessler with a set. So that's Codeney getting not quite 2.5 to 1. Not good enough price to draw. And Kessler is back to where he was. Alan Kessler, 57 World Series of Poker cashes, 0 bracelets, trying to change that here. So you can see the 2013 World Series of Poker main event champion in the background there. Kessler with a high-powered rail here. How much good will it do him? Pulls to Allen in the small blind with a pretty junky hand. He is in a fold. So we're 3-handed here for the bracelet as Kessler goes over to discuss with his rail a little bit. Kessler on the button with a pretty nice hand here. King, Queen, 10-7 with a suit. Good enough even for Mr. Kessler. So we're heads up to the flop here. Says Codeney against the Yankov. Says Codeney with a straight draw. And a pair of 6s. That is going to be good enough. And Zaz Codeney will win the minimum pot there.
Why? Why I'm like? Aces. Maybe.
Alan talking about the aces versus 6-6-4-4 hand. Alan did indeed have the best hand on the flop, but only by about 4%. That's Codeney with a nice one here, double suited. King, Jack, 10-7. He's going to come in for a raise.
It's so big.
Kessler with an ace 6-6-5. The ace is not suited. He will fold. Kessler has not been defending his blind nearly as wide as these other players.
This is the game. Somebody's getting lucky.
three-handed here at King's Casino in Rosvedov. This event brought to you by King's Casino and 888 Live. The World Series of Poker Europe, doing 11 bracelet events out here. If you are based in Europe, it is your chance to get some of that coveted hardware. The Colossus still going on. We got 3 more flights, 500 euro buy-in, 2 million guarantee. Each flight has a single re-entry possible. We're going to see if somebody unlocks the achievement of firing the maximum number of 20 bullets in the Colossus. I don't know if anyone will, but as Yankov raises his button over to Zazkodny, who has a pretty nice hand, ace-4 suited with a jack-10 in there. He'll see a flop. Zazkodny flopping 2 pair. Yankov with the nut flush draw, though. The nut flush draw and middle pair. Oh, we could see a big one here as Zazkodny is going to check raise pot. Yankov with the nut flush draw and middle pair. Zazkodny with top and bottom, and Zazkodny is basically just committing his whole stack here. Yankov has a 2-pair blocker and the nut flush draw. Not sure if he's going anywhere. He is an underdog, but he's got to at least see the turn, I think. If Zazkodny had some sort of a straight and flush draw combo, Yankov could actually be ahead here with his king high flush and pair of 7s. But as it is, he is not quite a 2-to-1 dog. Yankov has to decide how much he wants to gamble here. A true beneficiary of a gamble between these two stacks would be Alan Kessler. If Yankov manages to bust Zazkodny in third, that's a huge win for Kessler. If Zazkodny doubles for Yankov, Kessler is pretty much in the same spot he's in now. Yankov may be wishing he hadn't bet now. He makes the fold. A tough laydown, but he was not getting the best price there, and his 2-pair outs are not live. He had to hit a trips or a flush. So Zazkodny picks up a big one there. Make blinds will be going up soon to 25 and 50. For the moment, they are still 20 and 40. We're playing 3-handed for the bracelet here at the beautiful King's Casino. Alan Kessler makes a fold, Zazkodny in the small blind with ace-king suited and a couple of danglers there. Looks like he's going to raise. And Yankov with a real bad one. Yep, 4 diamonds, that's no good. He is just going to fold. 10-9, 3-2, all diamonds. Not what you're looking for here. In PLO. Blinds are up to 25 and 50. This final table brought to you by King's Casino and 888 Live, World Series of Poker Europe. You can see the stacks now at the new blind level. Kessler with 35, Zazkodny with 44, Yankov with 73, still in the lead. Zazkodny folds his button there. Yankov in the small blind with a real bad hand. Pretty much the same hand he had last time. Not a good one. He will make the fold. Kessler gets a rare walk. And he had a pretty bad hand himself. He's got to be happy to see that. Alan Kessler with a lion's share of the experience among these three players. Kessler with 50 circuit caches, 3 rings, and 57 bracelet caches, no bracelets. His opponents have 1 bracelet cache combined between them, and that was earlier this week when Yankov min-cached the 550 PLO. So a big experience gap here, but these two guys seem to be more than holding their own against the very experienced Alan Kessler as Yankov raises his button with Queen Jack 8-7. Kessler with a pretty trashy badoogie in the small blind. Not going to play this one. We've seen him make some big folds pre-flop. I don't know what the statistics are on this hand, but I think more than half of the hands that Kessler has voluntarily played involved having aces. I could be wrong on that, but he's definitely showed up with aces in quite a few pots at this final table. Working out for him, though, as he is still battling here, 3-handed for the bracelet. Kessler with ace-2 suited, a 5, and another card on the button. We'll see if that's good enough for him. A little head shake there usually means a fold. So that's Kodny. Pretty bad hand himself in the small blind here. He's going to limp.
Check.
Yankov makes a check. We're going heads up to a flop. As Kodny flops nothing, Yankov just has bottom pair, though. The bet will be good enough. The limp min bet works out for Zazkodny there.
You guys don't have a rail? You don't have any people watching? Yeah, there's not such a big as you.
Kessler comparing rail sizes there. Kessler does have 2 champions on his rail. Zazkodny, the hometown hero, but his family is in Prague, I believe, so they're probably watching him from there. He has trips on the button, not what you want to have in PLO. Having trips in your hand is very bad. It means you only have 1 out left to hit a set. And having pairs is bad enough. You're not really looking for sets. It's more of a game of straights, PLO. Yankov raises blind versus blind with a double-suited king 7-6-4. Kessler in the big blind with a pretty trashy hand. Just going to fold, even with position. We've seen Kessler fold his blind quite often. And you can't really blame him with that one. That was a very bad hand. Three-handed PLO, no antes, so. PLO is a crazy game. We could see a whole bunch of tiny pots, and then suddenly out of nowhere we could just see one gigantic pot. Yankov made a disciplined fold there with the nut flush a few hands ago against the 2 pair of Zazkodsky. Kessler, that's not going to cut it. And Zazkodny with 2 pair in the big one there. That's going to be good enough.
Please, don't you forget, often forget to put your cards in the box.
I put every time.
I don't know, but they don't have your cards.
Okay.
Just maybe a few seconds more.
Okay. I'm
Trying to make sure we pick up everyone's cards here.
That's square.
It does enhance the viewing experience to know the cards.
Oh.
Makes my job a hell of a lot easier when I know what people have.
You're welcome.
Kessler on the button with ace 8-6-5. The 6 and the 5 are suited. Not good enough. If the ace was suited, we would have seen him in there. Zazkodny ace 9, 8-7 with 3 hearts. One of which is the ace. He's going to raise. And Yankov with a pretty bad one on the big blind will just fold. That's Kodny the winner there. Seen a lot of tiny pots here, but a big pot can grow out of nowhere in PLO. Everyone gets 4 cards. Equities run very close. If we do get to a heads-up game, we may see more 3-betting, because once you're heads up, there's less incentive to wait anybody out. Heads up is just winner take all, but 3-handed, you do have to worry about potentially finishing 3rd. So we're seeing a little bit more conservative play from these guys. Yankov in the small blind with king, queen, jack, deuce, with the king, queen suited. Given how much Kessler's been overfolding his big blind, he is going to go for the raise. Kessler with a pretty good hand in the big, though. Ace, king, 9-7 with 3 hearts, including the ace. He will make the call. Kessler flopping trips. And the thing about Kessler playing so tight out of his blind is that when he does actually call, Yankov has to proceed with a good deal of caution now. Yankov does indeed check. Kessler checks behind with the nut full house. Didn't see the 7 at first. Kessler no longer with the nuts, but he does still have a full house. Yankov's going to bet now. Yankov has a wrap, but that is not any good. Yankov does not hit on the river. If he tries to bluff here, he is not going to like what he sees. He does not. He gives up on the river. And Kessler will now try to value bet, but not going to get any value out of this hand. Yankov folds. Kessler takes it down. Alan Kessler trying to full house his way to the bracelet here. Yankov on the button.
System on or off?
Trying to make sure we pick up his cards. We did this time. He has a double suited 10-5-4-3. Not so good. Kessler in the small blind with ace, king, 7-4 with a suit. Good enough. I believe he has raised. Says Kodny only has to call 75 to see a flop here. He will not do it. Pretty bad hand, no suits, not much connectivity there for Kodny. Kessler happy to take down the blinds there. And this 3-handed match is going to be a marathon. A lot of the edge here is just maintaining your focus, not getting impatient. It's a test of endurance here, 3-handed. As Kessler with 3 diamonds on the button here. He will be playing the hand. Comes in for a raise. Does Kodny folds? They double-suited medium-ish hand, and Yankov in the big blind will see a flop. Jack 10-7-5. His diamonds are dominated. Other than that, he's fairly live here. 3-2-3, no help to either player. Kessler checks. Turn is a 5. That gives Yankov the best hand with a pair of 5s. He will check. Kessler content to show down. A 9 on the river. That does give Kessler the win. Check all the way down. Kessler's going to win with the 9. Alan Kessler trying to close out his first WSOP bracelet. He's certainly had enough attempts. He's made 7 final tables. He's finished second in 3 of them. 57 cashes. Will this be the time? World Series of Poker Europe presented to you by 888 Live and King's Casino. We're out here in Rosvedov on the Czech-German border. They're building this up into a major destination. As Zazkodny comes in with a raise here with a pretty bad hand. Yankov with jacks and a suited ace. Going to see a flop. And Kessler with queens may also see a flop. Kessler way in the lead right now. All 3 of these guys have a pair. Kessler has the highest pair. That is rarely what decides a hand in Omaha. We'll see the flop. Flop is king 8-7. Kessler still out in front with the queens. He also has a gut shot to go with it. Yankov with a pair of 7s and a backdoor flush draw and a pair of jacks. King on the turn, Kessler still ahead with the queens. He is going to bet for value now, or protection.
No, I put them both out. No.
They might change Kessler's bet to 100 here. Doesn't actually matter too much. A smaller amount might even be better for him. More likely to get a call from Yankov. Yankov has to decide just how tight he should play here. He does make the fold. Nice fold by Yankov there. He was barely beat. Kessler going to win that pot. We're down to 3 players out of 191 in the 2,200 euro PLO event. See some high stakes cash action in the foreground there. Yankov with a very nice hand, ace, queen, 10-8, double suited. Over to Zazkodny.
Wait till you see all these hands I'm winning on the thing. I'm winning every hand.
King, queen, 10,
2.3
deuce
million.
with a suit.
Yeah.
That's why we're not even paying attention. You got it now.
Yankov in the lead here. No help for anyone on the flop. Or no, I'm sorry. Zazkodny picks up a flush draw with his king 2 of hearts. Check, check, flop. Turn is a 9, gives Zazkodny a few straight draws. But Yankov also has some straight draws himself. Neither player has a pair yet. Zazkodny leading the turn. Yankov will call. Let's see a river. They might make the same straight on a few different rivers. A 5. Yankov still in the lead with ace high. Pretty rare for a hand to go all the way to the river in PLO and ace high to be the best, but it is a game of draws, and that will happen sometimes. So if Zazkodny bluffs, he'll win the hand probably. If otherwise, he's going to lose to Yankov. He gives it up. And Yankov can win by betting or checking. Wouldn't surprise me to see Yankov bluff. It looks like he should have to bluff to win here, but he doesn't. Ace high is actually good. And it might take him a sec to realize that he does actually have the best hand with ace high. Didn't want to turn his cards over until he realized he was up against just king high. Ace high wins the hand.
Oh, that's a really hard hand to have, to win. No pair.
That is indeed a really hard hand to win with in Omaha.
Nice game. and me as well. You are best.
So we continue our three-handed match here. The blinds are at 25 and 50. We're going to have a break coming up before too long, and then the blinds will be going up to 30-60. We are live from the King's Casino in Rozvadov. That's Cody in the small blind with a pair of kings.
What happened?
We saw the 10 cents at a 10.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
As Cody will raise, he has king, king, jack with a suit. That's a nice start to a hand, and then he's got an unfortunate deuce trailing along for the ride here. Yankov in position with queen, queen, 5-5 double suited. He might repot this one. Getting raised blind versus blind quite often. He is going to repot. And Zazkodny with a nice one here, but this could get interesting real fast. He is actually ahead of Yankov's queen, queen, 5-5 double suited, but if he's up against aces, he's in very bad shape. And he does have to worry about potentially finishing third while Allen is still alive. Zazkodny all in.
Ryan.
And now Yankov
Ryan.
getting close to 2-1. He does have the right odds to call here. Queen, queen, 5-5 double suited against the kings of Zazkodny. And Kessler is loving this spot.
How much you got left? 3?
Seeing a different approach here. Kessler would never find himself in an all-in spot here like this without having the aces, but these guys are on the...
Wow.
And here it is. It says Cody all in with kings, Yankov with queens and 5s, and 2 flush draws. And Kessler is rooting hard for Yankov. See the quizzical look on the face of Alan Kessler there.
Who's got what? Who's got the kings?
Ne, той.
Točím kingy, jack 2.
Te 3 bet nagoje, mogu fold na vrat.
Do kvíny a pětky double suited. So,
No, the queens and 5s cover.
The queens and 5s cover. So Alan Kessler and his rail are rooting for a queen or a 5 or a spade flush or a heart flush.
Ne, аз имам 3 милиона и
Says Cody needs to just hold with his kings. He could also hit a club flush. And the flop. The spade in the window. Oh, ace 6, ace, no help. No help for Yankov.
Нема буи.
He needs running spades or a 5 or a queen to win this hand. Not the flop he was looking for. The turn. It's a 10. No help for Yankov. He has 4 outs going into the river. Actually, one of his outs is dead. The queen of clubs is no good. It would give Zazkodny a royal flush.
Само една. Един аут.
8 of clubs on the river. Zazkodny makes his flush. And he is going to take over the chip lead here. Yankov trying to deal the knockout blow there with a hand that's going to be an underdog, but not a huge underdog. The hometown hero staying alive, holding with the kings there. And Kessler's patience really paying off here. He just waited out his two opponents, chipped up gradually. They both got it in against each other with pretty weak hands.
No, to byl mega all-in, kdy jsem jakoby na turnou měl náct a mu dochcel full house na rovinu.
More than the tu spop dama next.
Wow, that was a huge pot.
A huge pot indeed. A huge pot indeed for Lucas Zaskodny, and now he is the chip leader. Yankov's going to be knocked down to third place, but as you can see, the stacks are reasonably close here. Points are 25 and 50. That's kind of just how PLO goes. We see a bunch of tiny pots, and then suddenly it just goes 3-bet, 4-bet all in, and 60-40. Zaskodny now with the chip lead, and ace-8, 7-6 with a suit. He will surely be raising here. Coming in for the raise, but Yankov with aces in the small blind, and we may see another huge pot between these two immediately. Yankov going to 3-bet with aces with a suit. Kessler not going to play with the 5s here. The King 10 5s. Back over to Zaskodny. He does have 3 connected cards and a suited ace, and he has position.
It's about 1,000,003/4.
So if Zaskodny calls here, there will be a little bit more than pot behind. We're going to see a flop. Oh, no, we're not. Zaskodny makes a fold, letting Yankov have that one. A bit surprising. I had assumed he'd be seeing a flop there in position. He is allowing Yankov to fight another day. Three-handed for the bracelet here. Chips flying back and forth between Yankov and Zaskodny. Kessler mostly a spectator, but he is playing a few hands, chipping up gradually. Here he has a 3-card hand. First 3 look quite nice. The 3 of clubs sort of ruins the aesthetic, though. Gonna limp. Good enough to limp. And Zaskodny in the big blind with the 9-7-6-2 with a suit. Opts to check it back. Deciding against putting pressure on Kessler with the raises here. No help for Zaskodny on the flop. Kessler makes middle pair with a gut shot. Zaskodny with bottom pair. Kessler going to check call for the minimum going into the turn. Turn is a deuce. That actually gives Zaskodny the best hand. He bets again on the turn, and now Kessler with just a gut shot and middle pair might be hard pressed to continue. Zaskodny going to take that one down. Lucas Zaskodny is the chip leader, trying to turn his first WSOP cash into a bracelet here in the 2200 PLO. We got 11 bracelet events in total out here. 3 flights left in the 2 million guaranteed Colossus. If you're on the fence about coming out, I would recommend that you check that one out. Good chance of an overlay. And where else do you get the chance to turn 500 euros into a 2 million prize pool? Here we got Kessler on the button with queens and deuces. He's got a suit to go with it. A reasonable enough hand. And Yankov with a somewhat connected hand in the big blind. Going to see a flop. More heads up to the flop. Yankov a slight underdog here. Yankov flops the nuts. Kessler going to bet with his overpair and flush draw. And in this game, you don't slow play the nuts on this type of board, generally speaking. Yankov also has a gut shot redraw. But check raising and getting Kessler off of his equity would be a pretty good outcome for Yankov here. He's going to check raise. And Kessler facing a pot-sized raise here. He does have a live flush draw. He's at 41% equity in this hand, but it is difficult for him to know that. As Yankov raising quite big on the flop here. Kessler is also going to be facing an all-in on the turn if he misses. So difficult spot for him to continue. He does indeed make the fold. Nice pickup for Yankov there.
Probably a bad fold.
Sorry?
It's a bad fold. I shouldn't fold there. Should have just checked back.
Check
I
back
think
would have
good
been
fold.
optimal for Kessler there, but when your opponent's playing pretty much any four from the big blind,
If you think bad fold, you should stack.
players discussing the hand a little bit here.
Definitely should have checked back.
Krasimir Yankov from Bulgaria trying to make his second WSOP cash into a bracelet. Alan Kessler with 57 bracelet caches and no bracelet as of yet. Trying to change that here. 3 runner-ups for Kessler in 3 different games. His best cash came in 2010 where he got second in the, I believe it was Stud 8, 10K Stud 8 for just under 300K. Lost to Mr. Frank Casella in that one. Yankov going to check back. I'm sorry, Kessler going to check back. Yankov limps, Kessler checks. Yankov with a suited ace-queen. Going to start with a check here. Kessler with 2 pair, queens and sixes.
Nic zajímavého tam není, veď zatím.
Kessler pots. Yankov will call. Top pair, a few different kickers, and the backdoor flush draw. Yankov picks up some outs on the turn.
Málo bluffů.
Picks up a gut shot and his flush draw.
Ale to je
River's a
mega
5, no
zkušený,
help for
ale
Yankov. Kessler picks up the second nut straight. Third
tam
nut
na něj
straight.
víc tlačit.
Kessler is going to bet the river. Wait, is Yankov betting? Did Yankov try to turn his hand into a bluff there? Looked like from the graphic that Yankov bet and Kessler called. Either way, Kessler wins a nice pot there. Yankov's 1 pair, no good on the river. Yankov folding his button there. Kessler in the small blind with Jack 996. Jack 6 suited, good enough for a limp. He is in there, and Zazkodny with a pretty weak hand in the big blind. Deciding whether he wants to put the pressure on Kessler. He does. Makes it 150. Kessler with a playable hand, but out of position is not going to flop super well. He is slightly in the lead at this point. He makes the fold. Zazkodny taking it down with a very weak holding there. Putting his big stack to work a bit. After doubling with those kings against the queens and fives of Yankov, Zazkodny is in the driver's seat for this event. First WSOP cash, chip leader 3-handed for the bracelet. Not a bad spot to be. Kessler on the button with a very weak hand will make the fold. Over to Zazkodny in the small blind. Not the best. It's a Badugi ace-9, 3-2. He has been pretty loose with his opening range, though, so he's going to make the limp here. Yankov quickly checks with another weak hand. Yankov in the lead, about 1.5 to 1. Good flop for Yankov, says Kodny with nothing. He does have the nut flush blocker. He also has a straight blocker. Yankov with just top pair. We'll check it back. Turn is a king. Gives Yankov the lock on the hand, actually. But his hand still doesn't look great. He only has middle pair and an open ender. His players both content to check down to the river. And Yankov makes his straight. There's a flush possible. And there's a higher straight possible, so he's just going to check and shut it down.
Straight. Straight.
The dealer were a bit confused there. PLO, a game with a lot of moving parts. It is easy to lose track of what's going on.
Big pot.
Dealers here have been very good, though. Dealing PLO is not easy. You also have to know the size of the pot. You have to know that players play exactly 2 cards. You have to be able to quickly deduce what's in everybody's hand. But the dealers here at King's Casino have done a fantastic job in this World Series of Poker Europe. This is event number 6, the 2200 PLO. First place in this event is 93,677 euros. All these players have locked up 40,300 euros. But still a lot left to play for. It says Kodny on the button with 2 pairs in his hand. 9s and 6s. He also has the 9 and the 6 of the same suit. He's going to raise the button. Over to Kessler with a weak one. He will make the fold. Kessler certainly holding his own here three-handed, despite folding way more hands than the other 2 players. When he does find himself in a pot, he generally has the best of it, which is making up for all the big blinds he's allowing the other players to win by default. So different approaches here. Kessler with the very much the slow and steady wins the race sort of approach. And it's working out for him so far. Kessler in the small blind now with Queen 10-7-6. Gonna make the fold. Ooh, good walk from Kessler there. Kodny with a monster hand, aces with a suit. Absolute monster there from Kodny. Kodny is the chip leader, trying to wear down his opponents without making a slip up and giving them a whole bunch of chips. Kodny with a nice hand in the small blind here. King Jack 10-6 double suited. Kessler has folded to him. Kodny going to raise. And he will take it down. Seeing a lot of small pots here punctuated by the occasional monster pot. That is how it goes in PLO. No antes. Can actually reward the more patient players like Mr. Kessler over there. Says Kodny on the button with a pretty ragged Badugi hand here. Jack 10 and the 8 all sort of work together, but no suitedness makes this one pretty trashy, and he does indeed make the fold. Yankov gives Kessler a walk. Kessler with not the worst hand. Yankov was the chip leader. Tried to go for the knockout blow against Kodny, but couldn't quite get there on the 40-60. Seeing some very different approaches here. Alan Kessler taking the very tight approach as the other 2 players. much more willing to play pots against each other as Yankov raises the button with 4 unknowns. Kessler with a little head shake there, usually proceeds to fold. Over to Zaskodny in the big blind.
Fold. 3 of kind. Good.
And Zaskodny will make the fold, so we don't know anybody's hand there, but I guess it doesn't matter as the hand is over.
Sorry. No. I apologize. Was not my intention.
Three players remain for the bracelet. Zaskodny well in the lead here. Kessler is holding his own in second place, though, 44 big blinds, and Yankov bringing up the rear now with 38. See the payouts on the right there. It's been a very back and forth final table. Koliafotis was our early chip leader, but managed to finish 7th. Tuito was also very aggressive early on, but managed to finish 6th after losing a huge pot. Just a gigantic pot where he flopped the nuts against the nut flush draw and 2-pair. Kessler's 2-pair made a boat and the flush got there. So flop the nuts, finish in 3rd place. That's PLO for you. We're live from the King's Casino in Rozvadov, Czech Republic. This event brought to you by 888 Live and King's Casino. The World Series of Poker Europe. Kessler gonna fold his button. Says Codney raising the kings. And Yankov is going to see a flop with 10-10-9-5 double suited. Says Codney flops middle set. Yankov with nothing. Middle set will take that one down. This is going to be a marathon 3-handed match, guys. All the stacks are quite deep. Kessler showing no sign of getting it in with anything less than a monster. These other two guys are mostly playing small pots as well. This is Codney with a 4-card rundown on the button. It's also double suited. There's a gap in the middle, but he will win with that hand. Unfortunate for him, that is a pretty hand in Omaha. But he'll have to content himself with taking down the blinds on that one. Kessler yawning a bit, but this certainly favors him. He has an unlimited reservoir of patience. His opponents may not, as evidenced by the all-in with the queens and fives against the kings. Surely that was an ICM mistake for at least one of them, but you've been playing PLO 3-handed for hours and hours and hours. Getting a spot to potentially bust one of your opponents starts to look pretty good. As Codney gets to walk there. Tantalizingly close to the gold bracelet. Kessler, 57 World Series of Poker bracelet event caches, 0 bracelets, 3 second places for him. As he gets a nice hand here, a 1-gap rundown. No suits though. Still going to be good enough for him. He will come in for a raise. 3x been the standard sizing for most of these guys on the button. Says Codney in the small blind with 10-10-9-6 with the 10-9 suited. Says Kodny been pretty liberal in his ranges, but we'll see if he decides to play this one. He is up against the very tight Alan Kessler. Gonna pass. And a good fold by him. Kessler had a lot of his cards. Yankov gonna see a flop with the low 3-card rundown and pair and double flush draw. Yankov hits this flop quite well. Kessler was just a gut shot, but Yankov with a open-ended straight draw, a pair, and a flush draw. Kessler with not much, gonna just check. Kessler needs a 5, but there's only 2 left in the deck. 8 on the turn will give Yankov the flush. Kessler makes... Kind of confused. I'm looking for why Kessler still had some percentage on the turn there. And I'm not seeing it. But Yankov betting the river with his flush. Kessler surely cannot call with this hand, and he doesn't. Yankov will win. Value betting the low flush there.
Should bet the turn.
Alan saying he should have bet the turn. It would not have worked out for him to bet the turn. But he'll find that out in about 30 minutes. We're on a 30-minute delay here, so these guys all have their friends watching, giving them the hands 30 minutes later. Makes for an interesting dynamic. Does Kodny going to come in for a raise with the King Queen 8-2? Yankov in the small blind 7-7-4-4.
Pot.
Kessler's going to pot with the aces. And we have a big hand right here. That's Kodny with a pretty ragged hand. He does have a suited king, but he's got to worry about Yankov behind him as well. Yankov with multiple pairs in his hand might see a flop. We shall see. Yeah, Kessler's repots generally involve aces.
You play nearly 2 million, eh?
And this one is
You
no
play
exception.
almost 2 million, right?
2 million point, 2.2 million. I lost to him a little bit.
1.99.
So that's Kodny verifying the stack size here.
I had 2.2 before that last one.
So Kodny will make the fold. And now it's on Yankov out of position. He's got 2 pair in his hand. So not a whole lot else going on. He does have the 7 and the 4 of diamonds. Looks like he's going to see a flop, though. So Yankov trying to outflop Kessler here. Kessler, of course, with aces. Yankov with a flush draw and 2 low pair. Can he hit a set? He cannot. Kessler is going to be out in front here with the aces. And I believe Yankov has roughly pot behind. Yes. Both these players have roughly pot behind. Yankov checks. And Kessler essentially puts them all in here. Kessler's going to take that one down. Big hit for Yankov. If Yankov had flopped the diamonds, I think he might have gone with it there, but no help for him on the flop. And Kessler very often going to have aces in that spot. So Yankov's call pre basically trying to crack aces. He failed to do so. He also failed to flop enough equity to run down the aces. So. Three-handed here. Yankov is in third. Kessler chipping up gradually. He's doing a great job of slowly but surely chipping up at this final table. He's up to 55 big blinds, 2.7 million. And Zasconi is our chip leader with almost half the chips in play, 3.6 million for Zasconi. Three-handed for the coveted World Series of Poker gold bracelet here at the King's Casino in Rosvadov. I'm your host, Brian Paris, B Paris Poker on Twitch. Make sure you are following my Twitch stream. I'm going to be streaming high-stakes MTTs 5 days a week as soon as I'm done with the commentary out here. Kessler coming in for a limp here with the ace-king 9-5 with the ace-9 suited. Zaskodny content to check back with the 10s. Kessler flops a nut flush draw. Zaskodny in front with a pair. $60,000 from Zaskodny. Kessler will make the call. We go to the turn. It's a 4 diamonds. Kessler makes a flush. Zaskodny is drawing to a 10 or a 6 for a full house. Check, check on the turn. The river. It's a 5. No help for Zaskodny. He does have a 3 blocker. Kessler's going to bet. Hoping to catch Zaskodny with at least a straight, but Zaskodny has nothing. Just a pair of 10s. Kessler could have considered checking to induce a bluff on this river, but that's always easier to say when you know that the opponent has nothing. Kessler is actually within striking distance of Zaskodny's stack here. And Zaskodny is thinking about something. He does make the fold. Kessler's going to take that one down with the ace-high flush. Not the nut flush, it was a paired board, but...
Hraješ ještě tam dole?
Three-handed. All these players have walked up 40,000 euros. First place is 93,600 euros as Kessler is dealt trips on the button. Trips in Omaha, very bad.
Got 3 million now. There's only 7.5 in play. 7.5. Got 3 million.
Yankov going to check back with the King-Jack 6-6 double suited. Zaskodny flops a set. Yankov flops nothing. And we're on to the next hand. Seen a lot of small pots here, punctuated by the occasional monster pot. That is how PLO goes at the World Series of Poker Europe 2017, brought to you by 888 Live in King's Casino. A lot of good cash action out here at the King's Casino. Last night we had the Phil Hellmuth Invitational game. That was very entertaining. Big pots in that game. Different experience from what we're seeing here. These guys are all playing hard for the bracelet. Nobody's punting. In that game last night, there was a little bit of punting. We'll say that. Kessler in the big blind. Gonna check. He's got 3 diamonds. He's got Jack 10-9. Yankov with King 4 suited and 9-8. Yankov flops a gut shot. Kessler with Jack high. Check, check, flop. Turn is a 6. That gives Yankov the nuts. Yankov will take that one down. One combined WSOP cash between these two guys. 57 WSOP caches for Alan Kessler, not counting this tournament. Alan Kessler with the ace-queen suited in queens. He also has a dangler 3 there, but hand still seems good enough. He's going to limp. So has Codney in the big blind with a pretty ragged king-jack 8-2 with the jack-2 of diamonds. Limp and check. Kessler flops top sets as Codney with a gut shot. Kessler's going to lead out for 75,000 with top set. Says Codney will make the fold. Gut shot backdoor flush draw, not enough against the top set of Alan Kessler.
I keep trying to trap you by limping in and you never go for it. Last 3 or 4 times. You never go for it.
Alan did induce a raise from the King 4-3-2 Badoogie and folded.
Yes.
Must have not seen that one. Says Cody in the small blind with the Queen Jack 10, 6, 2 to a suit. Seven, 9, 9 is the flop. Neither player improves. Says Codney with a gut shot. Yankov with nothing. 4 on the turn. No help for either player. Yankov is going to bluff the turn and take it down. Pretty much a pure bluff there. He did have the nut flush blocker.
All right, guys, it's about 5 minutes. You guys go on break. They're asking if we can take a shorter dinner break.
Sorry?
They're asking if we can take a shorter dinner break here in about 5 minutes, guys. Is 20, 30 minutes going to be enough, or what are you guys thinking?
Half an hour can be
Okay, half an hour.
but not less.
Half an hour because I'm so hungry, but
No, that's fine.
I wanted to eat good, but I'll take some fast.
Let's make 40 minutes maybe to eat.
Okay, 40.
What time is it going to be when the break starts? We can work it out.
They're going to have a 40-minute dinner break coming up in 5 minutes here, guys. And then they'll be coming back to 30 and 60 blinds after that.
All right, so I'll come back at 9:30. Is that all right?
Let me talk to the production guys. Let me see what.
Like it'll be 45 minutes, whatever.
Maybe 9:15 or something. Let me talk to those guys real quick.
Okay.
So how is it? The break?
They're not sure yet.
So that's Codney raising the button with ace-6 suited and 9 deuce in there as well. Kessler with a pair of queens, not a whole lot else. We'll see a flop. Going heads up.
Oh, sorry.
Kessler flops a set. Does Codney with nothing. He has 1%. Zaskodny going to start bluffing. He is drawing to a 3 for a gut shot. Kessler not going anywhere. River's a 10.
Set.
Kessler shows his set, not as good enough. Kessler continues to quietly move up the rankings here.
Okay, fine.
So we're going to go on a 40-minute dinner break here shortly.
Okay.
You said 9. You said 20 past 9. Yeah. Yeah, okay.
I mean, that's 40 minutes within, you know.
They're going to be back at 20 past 9. That means we will be back at 50 past 9. We're on a 30-minute delay here in the booth. Yankov on the button. Will make the fold. Kessler in the small blind. And Zaskodny with the aces is going to take that one down. A smaller pot than he would have liked, I'm sure. Counting the stacks, the blinds will be going up upon the return from the break. They're going to be 30 and 60. We'll see if that kickstarts the action at all. We did have Zaskodny at risk with the kings, but Yankov failed to improve with his queen-queen 5-5 double suited. Zaskodny with a nice hand here, ace-jack 10-8 with a suit. He's going to raise. Yankov with ace, king, king 5. Repotting, I believe. It's a 450. And Zaskodny with a pretty nice looking hand here. He is not quite a 2-to-1 dog. Gonna see a flop. We're gonna see a big one here, folks.
I call.
All in call. Oh, sorry. Premature. There's a little bit left behind.
There is a little bit left behind. And Zaskodny with just a gut shot against the top set of Yankov.
Oh, in.
Yankov puts the rest in. How much is it? About pot, I think. So it is a reasonably large shove from Yankov. Zaskodny with middle pair, a gut shot. Not a whole lot else going on here. Yeah, it is a little more than a pot size all in from Yankov, so he's technically just making it 900K with 85 behind. And Zaskodny has to decide if he has enough here to continue. It turns out he does not, but in some of Yankov's hands, he might.
Oh, they're okay.
Probably just the internet lag.
Yankov at risk. He's flopped quite well, though, with top set. And Zaskodny now has to decide if he has 33% equity against the range of Yankov. I guess he needs a little bit more than that. Always difficult to do equity calculations in real time in PLO. Zaskodny trying to figure it out now. If he does make the call, he will be a big underdog. 5 or 6-to-1 underdog.
I folded, right? What did I?
Kessler discussing a previous hand with his rail there. He's got a couple of champions on the rail, Ryan Rice and Kevin McPhee, who have won the World Series event, main event in Vegas and here, respectively. This will be our last hand before break.
You always had a hand against me, but now I have a feeling that maybe first time you don't.
Well, that is not the right feeling for Zazkodny. Yankov has a very big hand here. But Yankov does not look as happy about it as you might expect. Keeping a good poker face.
If you have a aces, you didn't shove that board. I'm blocking them.
Zazkodny trying to figure out what he's up against here. Many possibilities in Omaha.
Let's go for them.
He does eventually make the fold. Good fold there for Zazkodny. Yankov, a big favorite.
You had it again against me, yeah?
Again. You had it against me. I had every time good cards. I think you are drawing bet on this board.
You have kings? Yeah.
We'll be back in 40 minutes, guys. We're going to watch the rest of this three-handed match. It's been an epic one so far.
How long is the break?
40-minute break. I'm your host, Brian Paris. We will watch these guys play for the gold bracelet here shortly. Don't go away. Tweeto is actually an underdog here. Koliafotis flopping sort of a low wrap draw. Tweeto trying to figure out the stacks here. But I don't think Koliafotis will be going anywhere with this many straight draws. Tweeto with middle pair, backdoor flush draw. So now we'll see if we're going to see a call or a raise here. This pot getting quite large already. First really big pot we've had 15 hands in. Most of these players have been opting to play small ball. These two guys are going right after it. Koliafotis calls.
145.
That wasn't the right change.
Yeah, you should give 5,000 back to the pot. It was 145.
That was 5K too much.
He put 150, you put back 110K.
When did you do that?
145.
Okay.
Yeah, it's correct.
Small mistake in the pot there, but we fixed it. And Koliafotis makes the nuts on the turn.
How much is that?
Decides to just check.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wow.
Koliafotis looks very comfortable here, as he should. He has the nuts. And now it's up to Tweeto. Does he want to keep bluffing at this pot? It's already 700,000 in the middle and roughly pot behind. If he does continue bluffing, he is going to get the bad news. And it looks like Tweeto is reaching for chips here. He's betting 260 on the turn. Unfortunately for him, Koliafotis immediately shoves. And Tweeto with nothing here, just gonna have to fold. Koliafotis with that pot is gonna move into first place, I believe. Huge pickup for him. Almost a Flopolis, and now we have Koliafotis. Koliafotis is going to play his rush here, coming in with a very weak hand. Over to Zazkodny with aces. Weak aces, though, no suits. He does have a 6-5 of clubs to go with his aces. He's just going to make the call. Not trying to make the pot too large with weak aces. Van Holstein in a big blind. We'll see a flop. Zazkodny in the lead here. And he flops top set. This is another benefit to flatting with aces, is that people are not going to put you on top set. So we'll see if Zazkodny can win a big one here. Unfortunately for him, his opponents have not flopped much. And in Omaha, even a dry-looking board like this, you generally want to bet to protect with your top set. And Hold'em, this would be a pretty clear check back with top set because the best anyone could have against you is a gut shot. But in Omaha, it's pretty easy for people to have wrap draws, you know, a bunch of backdoor equity. And Koliafotis is going to call the flop here with a gut shot. I'm sorry, he doesn't even have a gut shot. He just has, no, he does. He has a low gut shot. And he has a few different backdoors. He turns 2 pair. That's no help for him. He's going to need exactly a 5 going into the river if he wants to win this hand. Zazkodny also has the clubs covered, and he has one of his 5s blocked. Zazkodny did just see Koliafotis check shove the turn with a low straight on a board like this, so it's got to be somewhat concerning, but he does block a 5. And if he is behind, he still has a bunch of outs with his flush draw and his set. So he's going to keep betting here. Koliafotis with 2 weak pair and a gut shot at this point. He will make the call. We're going into the river.
86? 83.
Koliafotis will need a 5 to win this hand. He's got 3 of them left in the deck. It's a 7. Zazkodny improves to the nut straight. Top set wasn't good enough. Wanted a nut straight to go with it. Another funny thing about Omaha. Doesn't happen very often in Hold'em where your top set improves to the nut straight on the river, but in Omaha it can happen. And Zazkodny sitting here with everything, deciding how is he going to make the most out of this hand. Good place to be at a final table. And I think a small bet would make the most sense here for Zazkodny, seeing as how he has 3 of the aces. It's pretty difficult for his opponent to have better than 2 weak pair in this spot. So betting something small seems to me to be the way to go, but he is betting about half pot. I kind of would have liked like a quarter pot there. Koliafotis does make the call. And he is up against everything. Huge pot there for Zazkodny. So his bet sizing was better than mine, it seems. I would have made less. His approach to Van Holstein, who I don't think we've seen play very many pots so far. He's won like the blinds once. He's seen a flop out of the big blind once.
New try, 55.
Koliafotis getting back on the horse with the ace-king 7-4. Ingolke right behind with a suited ace. Ace-queen 9-8. And he's got to figure out if he wants to commit his 7 big blinds here. Looks like he just calls. Tuito right behind with ace-queen 7-7 double suited. he will call as well. Yankov going to fold the button. Over to Von Holstein in the small blind. Going to fold. Barberez in the big blind with 10s. Not much else, but he is not going to see the flop. I thought the set mine value of the 10s would be enough there, but Engelke flops a straight draw, and that's going to be enough for him. He is in there. He's at a pretty decent wrap here, right? Tweedo actually out in front with the 7s, but hard to know that. He does have ace-queen. Engelke is all in for his last 61,000 here. Tweedo with a backdoor flush draw and ace-queen. Getting about 4-1. Good enough. And Koliafotis behind, also getting 4-1. We'll surely see a turn. All three players see a turn here. Tweedo actually with a pretty big lead with his 7s. Everyone else has each other's outs blocked. The turn is a 6, no help for anybody. Tweedo still in front. River Jack. And that's going to be all she wrote for Engelke. Tweedo is going to win a 3-way all-in with a pair of 7s in Omaha. Realistically speaking, yeah. Yankov under the gun with weak jacks will make the fold. And Holstein with the aces. Not such good aces. No suits and 9-2 to go with them, but they are still aces. Looks like he has raised. Barber has been pretty quiet so far. Folds there. Koliafotis, I suspect, will not be going anywhere with this hand. 10-10, 9-7 with a suit. Gonna see a flop. Tweedo with the ace-9, 8-2 double suited on the button.
He made the final table of the 1K as well, right? The
Yeah, he
1K
got
turbo.
fourth in the turbo,
Yeah.
second final table for him. We've seen a couple of people out here make multiple final tables. Him and Sergio Fernandez, who got 3rd and 5th in the first 2 events. Some nice performances out here at the World Series of Poker Europe as Kessler in the small blind with queens with the suit has to decide if he wants to see a flop here.
It's an interesting spot.
Basically, it's a set mine, right?
Yeah, but
he is
I
not
wouldn't
gonna
say
do
the
it.
suits are really bad, and the rest of it is pretty bad. So
yeah,
I wouldn't be too surprised to see fold.
Kessler is nothing if not disciplined. And Zazkodny in the big blind with a fairly weak hand, but he is in the big blind, so he'll see a flop.
And that's a really tough hand to play.
He actually has the most equity right now, amusingly enough. But it's going to be quite difficult to realize it, I suspect.
Yes, and when he makes his flushes, he's going to be almost never getting much value out of it.
Koliafotis with gut shot flush draw. Oh, that's actually a wrap, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a wrap. Pretty good flop for him.
And Holstein with the aces is going to lead out. Seems like a fairly ambitious lead, actually. 4-way, somebody's going to just hit this board really hard, right? He does have one blocker to some of the draws with his 9 of hearts, but other than that, he's going to get raised by Koliafotis, who is a big favorite with his wrap and flush draw.
Min raised.
The min raise.
How do you play against that?
It's actually pretty tough because it's you can't really continue.
I do know he plays a lot of PLO. So
I've seen him at Holland Casino a bunch.
He has, I think, a decent understanding of what to do in these spots, because you just get in if you play a bunch of PLO.
Yeah, it seems like fold is the only option there.
Yep.
Actually, I was surprised to see him even.
Decent chance he gets it again.
Gave it over to Zazkodny. Took him one hand to do so. Zazkodny seems to be a little bit more selective as he folds that one. And Holstein on the cutoff with 4 diamonds. Good enough for the cutoff. He's been fairly in line, so he should get respect on his raise. Barbarez has been quite quiet the whole final table. Koliofotis has not been quiet. He will see a flop here. Double suited Jack 8-7-7, and then Tweedo in the big blind has also not been quiet. Ace 8-7-6.
You really want the ace high suit, but still it's a pretty good hand.
Yeah, good enough for the big blind anyway.
Yeah.
Van Holstein would have a flush if he could play all 4 of his cards, but that is not how Omaha works. Koliofotis at the top set here. Tweeto with a gut shot. We've seen Tweeto willing to take some very creative, aggressive lines, and his hand looks pretty good here. He has top pair with a few different kickers. He has a gut shot. He has a backdoor flush draw. But he is going to run straight into the set of Koliofotis, and Holstein will get out of the way.
I think the most important part of his hand that he blocks top set.
250.
He does block top set, but
250.
250. Looks like Koliofotis trying to raise less than the minimum here. As Tweeto has let out for 140.
That is interesting.
I assume they'll. One of the bet sizes must be incorrect, or else the dealer's gonna.
The 250 is good. I think he let out for 105.
Okay, that makes sense.
I see that correct.
He does make the call, but Tweeto going to be in trouble here unless he can hit a 5. The spade would help his cause.
There's something going wrong with the graphics.
Yeah. Ten on the turn gives a.
It's a double gut shot.
Koliofotis actually has a higher gut shot with the Jack 8. And he is in a pot, which pretty much is an all-in against Tweeto's stack here.
I do not see Tweedo call here.
Tweedo with 10%. Double gut shot. Not a whole lot else.
You might think that he's up against the rep, but even against that, he's not that good. And if he's up against the set, he's pretty much dead.
And that is indeed the spot he finds himself in. Pretty much dead. Koliofotis, very aggressive player, though, so we're going to see what Tweedo decides on here. Looks like he's leaning towards fold.
I think he's taking quite long for the fold, actually. I do not see many ways he can call this turn.
He does not like to fold, Tweedo. And he's trying to figure out if he can get to 35% or whatever he needs. I guess a little more to continue. He does not. Koliofotis will win that one.
He probably thought he needed a little bit less, because when he calls on big...
PLO is a wild game sometimes. It's quite the ICM triumph there by Barbarez to run that stack up to
I imagine
6 players remaining.
I expect Allen to be folding just about anything with the with him having the shortest stack 2-1.
Yeah, Allen very aware of ICM, of course. Tweedo on the button here with a suited ace.
He'll be
and
playing.
the queen 6-3. He's for sure in there. No doubt about that.
Kessler will be folding just about anything.
Ooh, that's a good hand,
an interesting hand.
That's a good hand.
I think he's going to begrudgingly fold.
Allen might surprise you. Looks like he's calling.
There you go. Allen, let's see a flop.
And Zazkodny with a pretty nice hand as well. Suited ace in the big blind.
I expect him to call, but I think he should be squeezing here with the chip lead. Because Allen, like
and Tweedo's going to be so
fold
weak.
100%. Tweedo's button opening range is very, very wide. I think that's kind of a missed opportunity there.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Tweedo flops the nuts with a backdoor club draw. Zazkodny with the nut flush draw.
What an action
and
flop.
Kessler with bottom two and an open ender.
Yeah.
Kessler is, of course, very capable of.
Wow, this is going to be really interesting. Tweedo's going to bomb it too because of the flush draw and the two pairs that are going to be out there.
I think Allen will get away pretty easily.
Yeah.
But then Zazkodny and Tweedo could play a big pot here, and they are the two chip leaders, so this could be a pretty interesting hand.
It's just going to be a call though from the big blind.
Right.
Yeah. They're so deep, and
raising seems almost suicidal from him.
Yeah.
Tweedo can easily have ace queen or queen nine.
Allen's not deep enough to peel here, is he? He's got a shove or fold.
And he's wedged in between these other two guys, so I think he's just going to fold. Having watched Tweedo play all day, though, he does have to be at least tempted to continue here.
Yeah, I think without spades, he's going to let it go.
Allen thinking through the possibilities.
He has about a pot size. Yeah, he's got about pot size behind.
Yeah, these stacks are in real time, so it's not like what they started the hand with. It's what they have right now. Oh, Kessler is going to move all in. And that is not a good spot for him.
No.
And now Zazkodny with the nut flush draw. He calls. And now Tweedo with ace queen gets to re-raise.
Wow.
This could be a very, very big pot. Allen is not going to be happy to see the hands here.
And this is the beauty of PLO. You could just be sitting here going, okay, I don't want to tangle with the other big stack, and then all of a sudden you're just forced into a situation like this.
I mean, he has the literal nuts. He could be up against the nuts of the redraw, which would be bad for him, of course. But
he's not folding. He's going to pot it in, and Zazkodny's going to have to call, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a three-way all-in here.
We could have a massive, massive all-in here. And Kessler has walked into a bad spot.
Yeah, Kessler is going to be mad at himself for just getting involved pre-flop.
I was kind of surprised to see him
That's what he's going to regret.
Go with it here. I mean, the pre-flop seems pretty standard against Tweedo's button opening.
It does, but
I mean, you know Allen, yeah, he'll.
When he has a 2-to-1 chip lead on the small stack, when you get involved with a hand like that, you're going to
Tweedo with the all-in. And we have a big pot here, folks. The biggest pot of the night by far.
Did you re-raise all in?
Kessler.
I was like, all right.
I'm hearing the bad news.
I was like,
that's not good for me.
I guess I need an ace.
A jack or a 10 would do it for Allen. That's his best shot here.
I don't think he thinks that will be good at this point, but maybe. Although he knows Tweedo has ace queen and only ace queen at this point.
Yeah, Tweedo has to have exactly ace queen.
Allen's going over to consult with Kevin McPhee on the rail. Trying to get some I'm a luck sack run good.
Oh, there he is, yep.
I love this here by Tweedo. Just like standing up. He's like, I have the nuts. What's going to happen?
And PLO, the nuts is not as good as it normally would be in Hold'em.
How much
the
is
nuts
this?
are a very precarious place to be in
like
PLO.
Tweedo just would just be begging his opponent to fold here, whatever he has. 2 pair of flush draws.
Yeah, Tweedo's very happy to see Zazkodny fold, even though Tweedo has the best of it. Zazkodny with nut equity, and he does have a straight redraw, just for a chop, though.
Yeah.
And I suppose some running boat equity, but that's not what you want to be banking on at a final table.
I anticipate this taking a few minutes for him to decide.
Yeah, I can see this. This is definitely a huge equity spot.
If this was a PLO cash game, or this was early in the tournament, or still during the entry period, he would have just stuck it in immediately and said, well, whatever. I've nut flush draw. But at a final table, against the second biggest stack when he's the chip leader.
Yeah, this is a very, very tough spot for him to be in.
So he's in for 400. He's got to call 1.3.
So that looks right, yeah.
You play 5, 600 behind, a little bit less. Yeah.
So
So he's
1.3 to win
getting
1.7 plus 1.45.
No.
So 1.3 to win like just over 3.
Yeah, he's getting just over 2 to 1 with the nut flush draw and a gutter to chop and running both outs.
It's probably actually an ICM fold, isn't it? Of course, if he calls and wins, he will be a huge favorite to get the bracelet. So
Yes, that is correct.
you got that bracelet equity.
But if he loses, he's then
Not winning the bracelet.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, he will still be alive if he loses. And is that a call from Zazkodny? Looked like he was pushing chips in.
So look, check out the two other short stacks at the end of the table
they are,
watching this
yeah.
action. This is amazing.
Barbaras is loving this.
Yeah, he's sitting there with 10 bigs, 13 bigs.
He is absolutely loving this. One of the best things you can see is a short stack is the 2 big stacks duking it out.
1 million plus this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's all in for him.
Okay, so they're figuring out exactly what the amounts are here.
Okay.
He's in.
He shrugs and puts it in.
Can he bet all in?
Is he betting that amount or all the chips?
All the chips. You play all the chips or not?
Yeah, he did all the chips. 1 million.
So I call.
So the pot he has less, so that's fine. Okay.
So Alan is drawing to a boat. Can also hit an ace for a chop.
Yeah, an ace would be a three-way chop. We don't want to see an ace.
No, Zazkodny still doesn't chop on an ace.
Oh, that's right.
Zazkodny needs a queen.
queen. Yeah,
Alan
he
needs an ace.
Yes.
So I don't think, well, we could get 3-way chops, but they're not very likely.
Ako pa sila mistag, nakita.
Not straight.
If Tweedo holds, he will be massive chip leader, and if Zazkodny hits a spade, he will be massive chip leader. If Kessler hits his boat, he'll stay alive, but he's still going to be pretty short.
Poprosi dama.
Well, no, you triple up to.
Dva čifta.
Yeah, I guess if he triples up, he'll actually be pretty in
Yeah,
contention.
you'd be in second place because the other two
Because the
guys
other two
won't
are
chop.
going to be losing. Yeah. Changes quickly.
Tenor Jack and Allen will be in second place.
Biggest pot of the night so far here at the World Series of Poker Europe.
This will be the biggest pot of the tournament, I would assume. And
Turns to 7 of spades. Says Kodney takes a big lead, and Tweedo is dead on the turn.
Tenor Jack, or they will be three-handed.
You can't run it twice at a final table, unfortunately for Tweedo.
Oh! Wow!
Alan Kessler stays alive.
Wow. So Kessler, they're going to be four-handed. As Kodney will have.
That'll be 5 because we're only losing one player here. We were 6.
Oh, you were 6? I thought there was 5.
I believe we were 6.
I only see 5.
I think someone just got to take a walk.
Huh? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's only 5.
Yeah, see Barbara's stack over there, and then
In the 1 seat, yeah. And then,
then
there's
Tweedo's
someone else in
busting,
the.
yeah, so
oh, there's someone
there's
else
5
there in
now.
the 8. Okay.
So Tweedo gonna finish with 15.5K for 6th place. Disappointing for him. Gets it in with the nuts. Roller coaster final table.
Wow.
All he had to do was hold with the nuts, and he would have had a massive chip lead. But easier said than done in PLO.
Should be one blue.
So
and one
Tweedo,
yeah,
his second
4-7.
final table of this World Series of Poker Europe, is going to finish 6th this time. Good showings for him so far, but he's got to feel like he's getting tantalizingly close to that bracelet.
Yeah, this one's going to be tough for him, for sure. He's a very tough player. Obviously, he's been to the final table twice already here. And his playing style is it's not easy to play against, that's for sure.
No. Yeah, he's certainly capable of showing up with anything at any time. So Kessler moves into 3rd.
More room to make plays and things like that. Whereas the turbo bounty was basically a lot of like just push fold.
Yeah, it didn't stop him from making plays though. He did actually get a 3-bet in with 9-4 offsuit against Reisner at that
Yes,
final table. I don't know if you were watching that one.
I was not watching, but I had dinner with Reisner the other day, and he was telling me about that hand.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, here we go. We have an all-in. Barbaras with a gut shot and middle pair. Yankov with top pair. Pretty close equities here.
And the backdoor flush draw.
So Barbaras needs a queen, 10, or jack, or running clubs to win this hand. Otherwise, he will be our 5th place finisher. Turn is a 3. No help for Barbaras.
And 30%.
Queen, 10, or jack. Or he will be hitting the rail.
An 8.
It's an 8. So Barbara is quickly out in 5th. Making his move right after that giant all-in pot. Best spot he's going to get, really. He was not too big of an underdog to double up there, but good showing for Barbara as he finishes 5th place for 20,000 euro. Only guaranteed 9 to start the final table, so 4th WSOP cash here for Barbaras. He got 8th in the 1500 PLO at the Las Vegas WSOP for 21K, so 2nd PLO final table in the WSOP. A nice showing for him. Versus Azkodny on the button with King Queen 9-2 with the King Queen suited, or the King 9 suited. He'll come in for a raise. Azkodny, our massive chip leader now.
Yeah, I think in this spot, like where PLO, you want to be trying to play hands that all 4 cards work together.
Right.
With the chip lead on a final table, most people will probably expand their range to 3 cards and sometimes 2.
Yeah, we got a 3-card hand here. And you never know, the flop could be deuce, deuce, 5.
And Yankov's also going to play a 3-card hand.
Yeah, the jack and the 5 are suited.
Oh,
so
there we go. Yes,
he's got a
sorry,
flipper.
I missed that.
That's the funny thing about PLO. You always have to look a few times before you see all the little components of everything. So many different moving parts in this game. So we're heads up to the flop. Von Holstein will pass. Krasimir Yankov from Bulgaria heads up against the hometown hero Lukas Zazkodny from Czech Republic.
Oh, that's cool.
Yankov flops a set. Zazkodny with a gut shot and a backdoor flush draw will check the flop. Good check on the flop.
Wow.
And he gets there, so we got an action hand here.
Yankov's just going to check call. He does have the diamonds, though.
He does have the diamonds.
But they're not good.
Yeah, so a diamond on the river would actually be the most action card possible here. Zazkodny going to bet with the nuts.
So Yankov sitting there with a set and a flush draw. And he only has 23% equity.
He does not want to hit his flush. He wants to hit a full house. He will call, of course. Into the river we go. River is a 5, no help for Yankov. And Zazkodny with the nuts. How much does he bet?
This is one of those spots. It's going to go check. Zazkodny's going to bet really big, and Yankov basically just has a bluff catcher, even though he has a set.
Now, when your opponent just check calls you on the turn here in PLO, you can be pretty sure they don't have the king-queen, right?
This is a spot where I think he should be check calling with king-queen versus the chip leader on a final table.
Ah, fair enough.
But that doesn't mean that they're going to think that in the moment.
He's less likely to have king-queen, I guess we can say. It does depend on the exact stack sizes. I guess the stacks being so deep, check raising the turn and leaving yourself open to playing river out of position on a board this dynamic could be kind of dangerous even with the nuts.
Yeah, and sometimes your opponent's going to have the same hand and be free rolling you, but he does call.
He calls the river. Zazkodny is going to show him the bad news. Yeah, tough spot for Yankov there against the chip leader in a spot where your range looks a little bit capped.
Yeah, it's hard to fold there.
Not an easy fold. And Zazkodny will pad his lead a bit on that one.
Yeah, I think I would probably choose a similar line, like, you know, checks for him. Yeah, he could have gotten into a lot of trouble.
If Alan got what he thought was a good flop for him, he might have actually been in quite bad shape. Van Holstein raising with the kings. Zazkodny, ace, king, queen, 7, 3 diamonds up.
He will be pot 3 betting. Oh, sorry, I mixed up the 2 hands when I looked here. No, he will probably just be peeling or folding?
Yeah, if the ace was suited, this hand would be a good deal better. But
Yeah, and
it is
then he has
not.
3 diamonds. Oh, he does
He
go
does
for it
pot.
with the ace-king blockers.
He's going to be in bad shape against Van Holstein, though.
Very bad shape.
And I believe he's essentially committing stacks here.
Yeah.
Van Holstein only...
I don't really like this play against under the gun.
Yeah, especially Van
raise
Holstein
versus
has
the
not really
shortest
been out of
stack.
line at all. He's been quite patient this whole final table.
Is he just calling? He's just counting his chips, figuring out.
Yeah, I think he's just counting.
See, when you have the ace-king-king, you're not as worried about being up against aces because you do have the ace.
Yes.
But if you are up against aces,
You are in very, very bad shape.
because he has no suits. He has ace, king, king, deuce, badoogie. This is actually a really tough spot. He just saw, but it is against the chip leader, which might give him some more courage to go for it.
Yeah, Zaskodny hasn't actually been that out of line either.
He did pot 3-bet the exact previous hand, blind versus blind against Kessler. And he does go with it. He says pot. I don't think Zaskodny will be able to fold once he does the math.
Zaskodny is not quite a 3-to-1 dog here. The board will split sometimes because they share a few cards. And Holstein is all in, or close to it.
Yeah, it's definitely all in.
And against a 4-bet range, Zaskodny's hand is actually in pretty bad shape. If he's up against aces or kings, he's in quite bad shape.
The break, I am now joined by one of our final 3 contenders in event 6 here. It's Alan, the Chainsaw Kessler. Now, you came into today as one of the short stacks, so it's got to feel pretty good to be making it into the final 3.
Yeah, and 3-handed right now, I think, on the chip leader on the dinner break, so that's good. I've been in this spot many times and come a little bit short, so we'll see what happens.
3 times you've come second in WSOP events.
3 really good players, too, though. So.
And 58th cash this will be in a WSOP event, excluding all the circuit events, which would be even more.
Yeah, I have over 100 WSOP brand caches, but 58 of them are real WSOP caches.
And tell me how much this will mean to actually win it.
I've been trying all my life to get a bracelet, so I mean, this would be a really big thing for me.
And do you still feel nervous? Have you got nerves with it being so close within your reach?
I mean, we've been playing here for like 8 hours or whatever, and just take it one hand at a time. It's really, everybody's playing really well, so I'm just trying, I'm trying to keep the pot small. I'm trying to just build up slowly. I was down to about 700,000, and without really winning it all in, I built all the way up to 3 million, just winning small pots. That's basically my strategy. Just try to win small pots, try not to go, all in on any huge draw or,
You've got Ryan Reese and Kevin McPhee on the sidelines helping you out as well.
And also Anthony Zinno, he's a 25K champion, so I have a lot of good support group over there.
All right, well, hopefully we'll chat to you again very soon, and that bracelet may be yours. Alan Kessler, go take your seat because you're about to play. These guys are going back into the action. 3 remain. 1 person will take that bracelet, and of course that first place prize of over 93,000 euros. So let's get straight back to the action.
Thank you very much. An interview with Alan Kessler there, our current chip leader.
30 and 60. You want to shuffle up the deal?
As you can see, Kessler with 41% of the chips 3-handed. Zaskodny in second place with 34% and Yankov with 25% in third. 50 big blinds, 40 big blinds, and 30 big blinds. The shallowest we've seen the stack so far tonight. For most of the night, these guys have been playing 70, 80, 100 big blinds deep against one another. The blinds are finally starting to catch up with them a little bit. You can see the payouts there on the right. First place going to be a little over 93,000 euros, and of course the bracelet. Alan Kessler, 57 World Series cashes, 3 runner-up finishes. Can he close this one out and win his first bracelet? Alan actually sold some of his action for this tournament on State Kings. So we got a lot of people there who are happy, rooting for him here. Lucas Zazkodny, the hometown hero. He is from Czech Republic in second place, 34% of the chips. And then bringing up the rear, we have Krasimir Yankov. He has spent much of the night with the chip lead, but still very much in contention with 25 big blind. And we're back underway. Says Codney going to fold his button there. Yankov in the small blind, 10-6-6-2, just going to give Kessler a walk. Allen with a pretty decent hand there. But you never mind getting a walk. We're here at the beautiful King's Casino in Rozvadov, Czech Republic. Event number 6 out of 11 bracelet events we are having out here as part of the World Series of Poker Europe, brought to you by King's Casino and 888 Live. Yankov on the button here. King, Queen, 9-8 with the King, Queen suited. He is going to raise. Makes it 150, a 2.5x open. Or no, 180. Kessler going to fold. So the full 3x. Zazkodny in the big blind with a suited ace. Not good enough. Ace, Jack, 4-3 with 3 clubs. Yankov will win the first button that he has. We've seen a bit of a marathon final table here so far, but as the blinds creep up, I suspect we'll see a little bit more action here going forward. We are on 1 hour blind levels. Next increase will be in about 55 minutes. We have just returned from a 40-minute dinner break. Alan Kessler, our chip leader, 3-handed. I know he's got a lot of fans back in the States. Not just the people who bought his action. Kessler is a bit of a legend in American poker circles, so a lot of people here hoping that he can win his first bracelet. But he is going to have to get through 2 tough players to do so. Kessler opening the button here with ace-4, 6-8 with the ace-4 of spades. Zazkodny in the small blind with a semi-connected hand. Good enough. A raise and a call, and then Yankov going to call as well in the big blind with a double-suited middle to low card hand. 3 ways to the flop. Zazkodny out in front, actually. He flops top 2. Yankov flops a flush draw. Kessler with nothing, just middle pair. Yankov also has an open-end straight draw. Yankov with a whole bunch of outs here. Queen on the turn, and Zazkodny locks this one up. Decides to check, see if he can get his opponents to bluff at it. Yankov with a multitude of draws may take the bait. And here he comes. Kessler will surely fold. Ace-8 would be a good hand here and hold him, not so much in Omaha. Looks like he's not folding immediately. Perhaps correctly judging that he is ahead of Yankov, but he still has to consider Zazkodny behind him. And Zazkodny is the current lock with top boat. Kessler will fold. A bit more thought than Alan usually puts into his folds. I thought that was a pretty fast one. Zazkodny Trying to maximize with the full house here. Does he call or raise? It turns out he has his opponent dead, but if Yonkov were to have a queen in his hand, raising would make a lot of sense. Queen 8, obviously the nuts right now, but on a lot of different rivers, there's going to be a higher kicker. Zazkodny does cover the 10 and the king. So this is a protection raise. He would get value against a queen here. Unfortunately for him, Yonkov merely has a bunch of draws, none of which are to the nuts on a paired board. And over to Yonkov. Who does have a multitude of draws in this spot, but none of them are live at this stage. He will wisely make the fold. Nice pickup there for Zazkodny. Maybe could have won a bigger pot by calling, but in Omaha, even the top boat needs protection sometimes. Zazkodny with a nice win there, and Yonkov is now at risk as the shortest stack. All these players have locked up 40,000 euros. Second place is 58,000, first 93.6. We are here at the World Series of Poker Europe in Rosvedov. I'm your host, Brian Paris, B Paris Poker on Twitch and Twitter. This event brought to you by King's Casino and 888 Live. Zazkodny on the button here. King 8-6-4. Not too good. Gonna fold that one. Yonkov in the small blind with 3 hearts, Queen 10-9, and then a 3 of clubs. He's gonna limp in, but Kessler with kings with a suit is going to be raising here. And Yonkov will wisely make the fold. About a 2-to-1 dog. Kessler taking that one down. Alan Kessler. Been very patient this whole final table. He's just slowly and surely been moving up the rankings. Very nice performance by him, showing that PLO is a game of patience, especially at the tournament level. People like to associate PLO with sort of mindless gambling, but it's also a game where you can afford to be very patient, and we've seen that from Alan, and it has paid dividends for him. Yonkov folding the button there. Ace-Queen 7-3 with a suit. Kind of a big hand to fold, but wisely so, as Kessler with Ace-King-Queen 6 with a suit. Not that the hand of Yonkov is actually good there in a vacuum, but 3-handed on the button, it seems playable. Maybe part of the consideration is that he's the shortest stack, and he's going to have an awkward time playing a lot of hands here. Turns out a good fold by him as Kessler with a monster here. Raises blind versus blind. Zazkodny with jacks, no redraws, we'll just fold. Kind of a tight fold from Zazkodny there. But Allen's raising range blind versus blind has been very strong. And that hand no exception. Zazkodny with no suits with his jacks. So even though he's going to be ahead on the flop a decent amount of the time, it's going to be quite hard for him to actually continue. Especially against Kessler's presumably very strong range. So a tough but disciplined fold from Zazkodny there. Kessler with ace-3-2-2. The ace is not suited, so we will see him pass on this one. Zazkodny with king-queen 10-3 with a suit.
Brian Rast, Todd Brunson, and Frank Casella.
Allen going over the players he's lost
I
heads
got
up
Todd
to
Brunson
for a
in the Hall of
bracelet.
Fame. If he doesn't win that bracelet, there's no way he can get in.
Quite a
I
lineup
fought two
there.
pair heads up against Rast. Ace 3-5.
And Yonkov is going to 3-bet pot here with the aces. He does have 3 aces in his hand. Not ideal, but it does at least mean your opponent can't have aces. He does have the ace-2 suited. He says Kodny will just make the fold. Fairly strong hand there. But he just folds to the 3-bet. He had king, queen, 10, 3 with the king 3 being suited. Only a 37% underdog against the ace, ace, ace 2 of Yankov there. Alan Kessler looking very confident here in the way this 3-handed match has gone. That's Kodny on the button with a pretty strong hand, ace, king, jack, 2 with the king 2 suited. Lucas Zazkodny, 39 years of age, lives in Prague, 2 children. It's his first WSOP cash, and he is playing 3-handed for the bracelet. Alan with 4 hearts in the big blind here. Other than that, his hand's pretty good. Four hearts, not what you want to see. You can only play 2 of them, so the other 2 just prevent you from making your flush. But he does still have 4 pretty high cards here. He's going to see a flop. Pretty much a coin flip. So has Kodny with the jack, but Kessler has the 10 and the 8, which interact together better. 4, 4, 8 on the flop. Allen takes the lead with top pair. And the backdoor flush draw, but it's even less likely than normal with all the hearts in Kessler's hand. Over to Zazkodny. He is going to bet. Kessler with the best of it here, but it's not exactly a monster hand. He is going to call. Ace on the turn for Kessler. That gives him top 2. Zazkodny may slow down now. The flush has come in. Zazkodny does have a jack of diamonds blocker, but he also has some showdown values and trying to reach the river. 3 on the river, no change. Kessler still ahead with 2 pair, aces and 8s. Goes check, check on the river. Allen's going to win this one.